Oh, hi everyone. Happy Friday. Hi, Big Amish. How are you?
Hi, Wendy. Thank you. Yes, I'm
Thank
great.
you
How
for
are you
being here.
doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hello, everyone in the
Hi, everyone
chat.
in the chat. I don't know if anybody is in the chat yet, but anyway, we changed what we were going to do today, and we're going to make it part of a series. So we're just going to go back to talking about Ray again, right, Big Amish?
Yes. Yeah, his pivot. What is he doing? Aligning with Steve G as well. It's a lot of
Yeah,
questions.
I actually wanted to cover this a while back. It's not a new interview. But, after all these interviews have come out with Steve G, and remember, the Sarai was, I think he was on Custody Queens. So I found this video very interesting, and I think we wanted to cover it before because remember, he was, he changed his story completely from the time that he was on Custody Queens. But before we start, anyway, let's see. Oh, hi, Alicia. Hi, Kelly. James, how are you? Who is Hook? Great to see you, James. We're gonna just say hi to everybody before we start. I hope you're all well. Thankfully, we all made it to Friday.
You know, a great Friday. Little Amy. Yeah.
Somebody
Oh,
must come up with a name for Friday chats because it's more of a it ends up becoming a bit funny in here. Anyway. Oh, okay. So James. Amish. I like him.
oh, he recognizes me from. I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan, football fan. So,
Oh,
so I, I would, and there's a sports podcast that I'll involve myself in, Law Nation. So yeah,
you everywhere.
thanks, James. That's great.
Hi, Texas Giggy. How are you? All right. So we're just going to try and control people not getting really too ugly in the chats. So anybody, if somebody is coming in and trolling, just yeah, please ignore them. Don't let it get to you. We do get them, and I don't mind if somebody has a different opinion on us. Then, sorry, I can't even talk. It's late.
Tongue tie.
It's late. It's been one of those days.
We've all
But
had it.
anyway, if somebody does come in the chat and they disagree with us, it's all good. I don't have a problem with that. Um, we don't agree with everyone else's findings either. So just ignore them. Or I think if you've got a mod stick, who Big Amish, have you got a? I think you. Oh, okay. I'm going to give you one. Sorry, you are now managing moderator.
There you go. I could pass out the discipline.
Somebody has to be strict. All right. So, did you guys watch this interview? I'm sure everybody has watched this interview on Brian Entin with the G's. Well, no, it was Steve and Olivia, and then Brian Entin, and Saray. Sorry, yeah, Saray. So it's quite interesting how he changed his stance from what he said on Custody Queens, right? Because didn't
Yeah.
he say on there that he doesn't have any evidence, or his
Yeah.
evidence was final?
That the evidence, if I remember correctly, he said there was no evidence placing him
Hmm.
in that vicinity, and then he flipped. to putting them right in the house
No, we're
and
not in the
having
house,
seen
on the
evidence.
roof.
Yeah, on the roof. Oh my God,
On
that's a
the
good
roof
one.
in his underpants.
Yes. Running around. Yes.
We're
Okay.
gonna go over Texas. Gigi, we're gonna go over this one with Bryan Entin. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so yeah, Bryan Entin. That guy. He's all over the place.
Yeah, he
He's like a
is.
he's like a diaper rash. So yeah, that one. All
Excuse me.
right.
Ooh.
Let us make it. Let's see if we can make it bigger. Okay, sorry guys, bear with me. I'm using Restream, and it's not my favorite to use. Okay, so I'm just going to add this. Okay. Let me see. Okay, but this is about the best I can do. Can you guys see this on the screen? Once you can see
Yeah.
it, I'll be fine. Oh, sorry, Texas Gigi. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, there's some interesting things you're gonna see on this. So obviously Begamish will have an interesting take. So and the reason I want to go over it isn't only just to go over it, it's because you're gonna see, I'm sure he's gonna probably change his story again, Cyril.
I'm sure he is. But and it
Mhm.
begs the question, what information is he relying on? Where did he get it from to change his mind? Right? He's so
Well,
a lot of questions that come up with his pivot.
there are some questions I want to address as we see them. So that was one of the first ones. Remember when he said that this was his um, final report. He said that everything in the report was final, if I have it correct, and that he doesn't have anything to add to it. Now, I think he said that new information came out. How is he saying that?
No, now, one caveat I do have to say, it could be related to the 68 terabytes. That's what I think it is.
Hmm.
And I don't know what he was privy to. So when the terabyte happened and when Ann Taylor officially stopped being the attorney for Bryan Kohberger, whenever that happened, because once that happened, it would cut off Cy Ray's ability to review anything, provided Ann Taylor provided him access. So the timing and the 68 terabyte dump is what is interesting because certain cell tower data and cell phone information might have been accessed or indexed partially, I'm assuming, by Ann Taylor, maybe. And it makes sense as much as they could, right? And maybe that's what he saw. I don't know exactly, unless he was provided access to, whatever access Ann Taylor provided him. Did he then do something with it? Did he try to index it for the
Hmm.
defense? No one really asked him those questions.
Is he allowed to do that?
If he's provided access by Ann, so the
Hmm.
defense team, like they need help, right? You get all this data dump that would take you probably 30 years to go through,
Yeah, but
even
I'm
with a team.
saying if
Yeah.
if she gave him access to it, does
Yeah.
he have access even after the defense attorneys are
Usually,
supposedly not
yeah.
working on it?
Once they're terminated, you shouldn't have it.
Hmm.
But if I remember correctly, I think was it Cyril or Turvey described the process that basically Ann Taylor on Google Drive would provide access to certain materials. So I'm speculating again how this process would work. But to answer your question, once your contract has expired, or if you no longer are an expert in the case, you shouldn't have access to it. That's one. Second, if the attorney who's involved wants to provide you access in order to get your opinion or advice on something, even if you're not retained directly, could they do it? Sure. There's certain parameters you got to work with that. But when was Ann Taylor terminated as counsel for BK? It would act automatically once he files the PCR. That's a fact. But did it happen beforehand? Constructively? It raises a question, when did that termination occur? Because that's important as well. And it goes to your question, would Cy still have access to it? The answer should be no, unless BK authorized it to tell
Okay.
Ann, look, I still want Cy to have access to the information. And then they would work around however that would be. But that's how the workaround would be, that BK tells Ann Taylor, look, I don't want you being counsel anymore, but I want Cy to have access, or this expert or that expert, to the 68 terabytes and other information. Whatever Ann Taylor had, that's what BK could authorize.
Is there a reason that he would authorize that?
Well,
Did you not anticipate what Cy would do? Maybe, or I can't see that.
Well, maybe he didn't. That's one aspect of it. He's relying on. Don't forget, he is penned up. From what we're being told, he's in a protective custody unit, right? So you're not getting much access to anything. He might have access to the internet through some sort of like an iPad or tablet. But when you're in protective custody unit, that could be limited. But because he has these autistic issues, it might have been provided to him. So it depends. We don't know. I'm just speculating what could have occurred in the prison system where he could have communications, right? And from his PCR affidavit, we know that his family was involved in the plea negotiations. I think that's fairly clear. And did that happen over the phone? Did it happen over text? Included text as well with Ann Taylor and the family? We don't know yet. But
very interesting. You saw that that they did release his medical analysis. I think that came out this week as well. Or
the medical
diagnosis from the defense, or was it from? Yeah, I think it was from the defense, or somebody correct me on that.
Yeah, I remember that was raised, but just to be clear for everyone, this is just my opinion, and I'm doing some legal analysis. This is not legal advice at all, and so this is just opinion and commentary on what's been happening. And so, yeah, regarding his, his autistic or his capabilities being affected or not addressed during the plea, I think that's how it came up, that autism should have been raised. And I think they had I forgot who was doing the evaluation. There was an expert who was retained to provide an evaluation, but that wasn't, I think it wasn't addressing the plea itself, but it was more of once he went into prison, how he would be treated. I forgot the whole thing. So it was a diagnostic approach, and then there's a treatment approach. And
I think, as far as I know, it was from the defense. From the defense, they got a neuropsychologist um, to diagnose Brian.
right, and that was prior to the plea, right? But was it anticipated? I forgot how they came up. I've not researched this aspect of it, so I
I,
don't know
it's,
the timing of it.
uh, I think I would have to just go back and check, but as far as I know, the article that I read, there were, I think, over 6 sessions that started in October of 2024. And
Okay,
yeah,
wow,
so
and then it's
so
obviously pre-plea.
they said there was four conditions that they diagnosed him with. It was autism spectrum disorder, so it's level 1, okay,
Right.
and yeah, but so level 1 is just that so he doesn't have intellectual or language impairments. It's just it has to do with facial expressions. That's why they call him a freak, because he doesn't have
You,
facial
you
expressions.
you mean
And
like Judge Hitler?
so yeah, they should have diagnosed him with the same thing. And then so this could be anybody. And then they diagnosed him with obsessive compulsive disorder, which I think we all have to some degree.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then ADHD,
Okay.
and then an eating disorder, which of course Tony Bruschi made a meal of. I was listening to that, and
Oh,
yeah.
yes, with his vegetarian meals. That's
Mm.
right. Yes. Oh God.
No, there was one that came out this week. So they said that, they also went into earlier periods in his life where he had anorexia and, you know, opioid use, developmental coordination, um, which is quite interesting because if you look at um, developmental coordination disorder, this impacts his physical motor skills. So right there, that is something to address, right?
Yeah, that's
Because
one aspect. I'm trying to figure out how this was being raised, or because you could it goes to the intent, right? I guess some of the mitigating factors. It could also be going to the death penalty phase. So I don't know where this
Mhm.
was going, or how it was being used, and I don't know what's been released because it seems like if you're publicly exposing medical information, isn't it a violation of HIPAA? I don't understand how this is even how it was even um, made public. To be honest with you, It's-
As far as I saw in the article, it said the defense team was going to use all these diagnoses as mitigating
yeah,
evidence.
okay, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. But I don't know why it's being published. Meaning, why hasn't that been sealed? There's so much more that remains sealed.
Mhm.
How come this, which is basically a violation of HIPAA, right? Some of your medical background's being released to the public. Why? Um, because if it wasn't public to begin with, and you could tell me, I don't know if anyone could answer this, which makes no sense because you're disclosing medical information. So I don't believe the defense filed this publicly on the court records. So it was released.
I think she originally did use the autism diagnosis to say that imposing the death penalty would constitute cruel and unusual
There
punishment,
you go. Yes, that would make perfect sense.
right?
That
That,
would make perfect
that's
sense.
what I
Yeah.
heard.
So you're challenging the death penalty phase. I got to look back then on this, but that makes perfect sense.
That, that's as far as I remember. Somebody correct me if I don't have it right, but that's what I remember she said, because she said that executing anybody who has ASD violates
Due
the
process.
Eighth Amendment.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
due process clause. So the Fifth Amendment is the federal due process clause, and it is incorporated to the states, applicable to the states due to the 14th Amendment. It makes basically the constitutional doctrines applicable to the states. So that's how it comes in.
So now, uh, how will this affect the potential role if he faces a new trial? Would these diagnoses would they be introduced during sentencing?
Well, I think so. If you go, it's going to go back to square one, and the state has to make a determination
Hmm.
whether they're going to proceed again with a new trial or allow the feds to take it over, and feds proceed with their own charges, right? But assuming the state of Idaho says we're going to retry you, so the issue of the death penalty probably comes up immediately. So I believe the new defense team is probably going to use those mitigating factors to show that the death penalty, death by firing squad, is unconstitutional as it applies to BK because of his autistic spectrum and the medical testimony. Now, it could be raised, right? You could say he has autism, but the nuances, his medical information, um, the way the court had handled sealing so much in that case, that's why it troubles me. How come this is exposed now or is being more available for whatever reason? So there has to be um, a hearing on it, right? And I'm assuming since it's already been out and because it is something that the public has an interest in and should, I think it's a very public debatable issue, not just the death penalty, but how someone with autism and the spectrum, how that impacts your mental abilities to comprehend or be subject to a death penalty in which certain aspects of your emotional state are taken advantage of or are being provided some safety mechanism to be protected. Because does he appreciate it? Are his facial expressions, as you pointed out, is that part of the demonization? Is that why you're seeking the death penalty of BK? Is it because you dislike him because of that? I mean, there's a lot of issues that are raised because of his autism. So, and I don't like to speak about it because I don't know much
Hmm.
about his diagnosis, and I just feel a little uncomfortable. But it does apply to the death penalty phase, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how he would be treated in prison. So there's a lot of factors here, and but if he's retried again, I think that comes right to the forefront of the argument. And because if you knock out the death penalty, you see why it comes. It should be one of the first items to argue, or the judge might say, "Well, I'll deal with it down the road." But that's something that has to be dealt obviously prior to any trial being redone because you remove the death penalty, you have a whole different case.
Mhm. I'm just going to add in quickly, yeah, and there is a big problem because, if you have somebody with autism that is facing a trial, right,
Yeah.
then obviously they're going to have this behavior that's misunderstood because of having that flat expression or odd eye contact, or maybe, as the VD has made a meal out of it, unusual speaking tone. So a jury might look at this and say, okay, well, this guy's got no remorse. He's cold blooded.
Yeah.
It it could make them more likely to vote in favor of it, of the death penalty.
And now you understand the importance of these leaks and how the media
Mm.
narratives of him and creating false statements attributing him being an incel, a stalker, right? So
Yeah.
all these outside factors and jurors are humans, right? I mean, they're going to be told not to watch TV unless they're sequestered and monitored all the time, which is a whole other issue. But you have to understand what you're raising is critical, and it might come down to another Supreme Court case, right? Addressing this, because how does someone like Bryan, right, present himself to a jury and have a fair trial?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
if his medical conditions create a bias towards a reasonable juror, how could it be a fair trial then? So if his disability presents a negative inference to the jury, that's not right. That's a violation of due process.
Yeah,
So
that's so sad,
yeah, it
actually.
is sad, but you raise an interesting point. I don't know if it's ever been addressed in a court, addressed by the Supreme Court for that matter. It could have been. It could be that certain people, but usually you have someone whose mental capacity is diminished, right? They have to seek
Hmm.
psychiatric care. You don't want someone just flailing and screaming. I'm just saying there's a different side to psychiatric issues. I'm not saying autism is psychiatric, but the effect upon a juror and a jury is similar. So if you have someone acting
Hmm.
out due to some manic episode, is that any way different than someone with autism making facial expressions that might create a bias towards just one juror who may have thought differently? And it raises a very, very powerful point, and I'm glad you raised it, Wendy. Is we could
Hmm.
talk about psychiatric issues and how it impacts jurors, and everyone could understand that. But when you're talking about mannerisms of someone who's highly capable and highly functioning, how that could impact a juror, especially if the mass media is creating narratives to taint a jury,
Oh, and
and they have.
they have.
So that's
Oh, yes, it's actually very sad because I mean they had their own public finding of saying he's guilty
yeah,
even before he stepped foot in a courtroom. You know, the blank
yeah,
staring, the creepy eyes,
the
and
bushy eyebrow.
I think very bushy. I don't think that's part of his evaluation, but they'll make it. They'll make it like that. He's got bushy eyebrows because
He's,
he's off his mind.
yeah, he
Crazy.
wants it. Yes, it's all. So he was tried publicly. You're right, and that's where again a due process issue. What is happening outside the courtroom is relevant inside the courtroom if it impacts a juror or jury. Could just one is enough, because that juror, it could be a foreman who's then pressing the jury foreman could be
Mhm.
pressing issues on the rest of the jurors. Look at that. Look at, why was he so quiet? Why was he pointing his fingers in that direction? You could think of a lot of things. I mean, we're going a little bit off, but people are humans and they're going to make nonverbal communication relevant at some point.
Mhm. Yeah, those flat stalker eyes that
Yeah.
we hear about.
Yes.
Um, yeah, it's actually very sad for him. Um, but you know, people with autism have been sentenced before.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, or-
Do you remember that case? There was a guy in Texas. I think his name was Robert Robertson. Sorry, I'm going off topic here. Do you remember that guy? He was sentenced early 2000s apparently for shaking his daughter, and um, they also said that he had a lack of emotion at the hospital, right? And also when the police questioned him, right? And they also later said that he had undiagnosed autism spectrum disorder. So I'm not sure if he was executed or I'm not sure what happened to him. But if somebody in the chat might know.
how was it addressed by the court? Do you know, or anyone? So how did they address his spectrum disorder, and what kind of determination did they make impacting his ability to appreciate, the death penalty? Because that's what it is. So just to give an example, if someone is totally incompetent, do you still pass down the death penalty? Or, where's the limit? Where is the line drawn? And that's really the question.
Yeah, I think I just have to check. I think he's still on death row. Somebody could just check that, or I'll go and have a look at it. But yeah, he wasn't diagnosed, you know. So that was quite a big case that I heard about, and yeah, it was a case of shaken baby syndrome. But whether he's guilty or not, I don't know. Because apparently he did take the child to, or his daughter, he took her to the emergency room, right? So it's not like he left it or anything. But so this is not in a courtroom, but what I heard was the hospital staff and the police said that he was flat, he had those same kind of dead eyes. He didn't have emotion. He didn't make eye contact with him. He seemed detached, everything like that. And yeah, so I don't know if they're still investigating the case, but it's one that I'll look into. It's actually quite sad because I heard a lot of people saying that he was actually not guilty, because he did take the child. So if anybody does know anything, because I don't have it in front of me, I just thought about it now as we're talking about this diagnosis.
It's interesting because it goes to the mental state, the intent. Can but for your, mental capacity or incapacity, did you have the requisite intent to cause that harm, that crime? So just in a general
Mhm.
sense. So if your mental capacity is diminished, that type of analysis has to occur and has to be determined by the court and argued through hearings before you even get to the aspect of rendering punishment and a sentence. So all of that is clearly relevant, and it also, incapacity also plays a role. When did the incapacity occur? Because you could be you're raising it during the event. Sometimes people become incapacitated after. So it's a question of, rendering punishment to someone who can't appreciate the punishment, as opposed to did he or she appreciate the crime enough so
Mm.
due process.
Just kind of sad to think if he didn't do it, maybe he did shake the child because he thought that, he's trying to wake her up. I don't know. I don't know. I have to go back on that
Good
case, but it
question.
just shows you, sometimes people are not properly diagnosed.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. What's reasonable to us, what's reasonable to someone with these psychiatric issues is totally different, right? And how do you determine what's reasonable? That's where you need the experts. Like, he wasn't trying to harm the child; he's actually trying to save the child, and this is what was happening. All that
Mhm.
is a factual argument, and that's where you need those experts to assist the
Yeah.
jury or the fact finder or judge, for that matter.
Wow. Yeah. Quite interesting. All right. Do you wanna do you wanna watch
Yeah, let's
um
dig into our
Entin?
favorite
You
person.
gotta love him. He's all over the place, this guy. Oh yeah, it's right in front
Let's
of
watch
me.
Mighty Mouse, Bryan Entin.
I want to see if he's running through an airport or a hotel room. This is more my favorite part, always in the beginning. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see the screen.
Xana, Maddie, and Ethan lived, that he was inside the house and possibly inside the living room.
Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna go back there because checking he starts the video with heavy breathing. I've got to play this.
Worked for the Bryan Kohberger defense team when they were getting ready for the trial, when they thought there would be a trial. And his name is Cy Ray. He was an expert on the cell phone data, among other things. And he's going to drop 2 bombshells in this episode. He's going to explain why he believes these things. First of all, based on the cell phone data, he believes that Bryan Kohberger was inside the house at 1122 King Road, the house where Kaylee, Xana, Maddie, and Ethan lived, that he was inside the house and possibly inside the living room before the murders, like on other days, that he had been in that house before, which I had never heard. He also, and he says he has the data to back that up. He also is going to explain why he believes that Maddie Mogen, was Bryan Kohberger's target. And again, he says that is based on evidence from cell phone data from Bryan Kohberger and also from the victim's cell phones. And he essentially tracked Bryan Kohberger and Madison Mogen to the same locations several times, he says, before the murders. Again, something I didn't know. So he's going to explain that. But when I said that this was a unique episode, it's because,
hey, everybody, Bradley Whitford here with the fact that all 3 million Americans living abroad need to know.
Steve Goncalves, who is Kaylee Goncalves' dad, Kaylee is one of the victims, and Kaylee's sister, Olivia, wanted to talk to Cy, who is one of the defense experts again. So it's kind of a unique situation. And they are going to do that in this podcast. And I'm really going to let them ask a lot of the questions that they have. And Cy agreed to do this because he wanted to answer their questions. And you'll see, he believes that Bryan Kohberger is guilty, but he has a lot of issues with the way the investigation was handled. So there's a lot to this. It's a long podcast, but it's filled with new information from an insider who was working on the case on the inside and has really unique information and data to back it up that I hadn't heard before. So I'm going to get into all of it. Again, it's a long convo, but I think you guys will find it interesting, especially in light of everything going on with Bryan Kohberger now saying that he's innocent. So I want you guys to hear the whole thing in this episode of Bryan Entin Investigates. Cy, it's nice to see you, Steve. Thank you for being here as always. And I know Olivia's going to join us in a little bit. She's dealing with the baby. But I wanted to continue this conversation from the time you just had on News Nation. And I know, Steve, that you wanted an opportunity, you and Olivia wanted an opportunity to be able to talk to Cy about some of the information that he has since he was a defense witness for Bryan Kohberger. I just wanted to ask one question before I throw it over to Steve, though, and it kind of plays off some of what you said on News Nation, Cy. You talked about Bryan Kohberger potentially being at the house before. Can you elaborate on that a little more? I mean, are you able to, and I know it's not exact, but are you able to say whether he was actually inside the house?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a little bit more responsive on these questions and drag it out a little bit. So if I'm going on and on, stop me.
Yeah, you can do that on this. We have unlimited time, so feel free. Yeah,
and 100%. Like, I'll make myself available to the family. By the way,
Big Amish, just pop me a message when you want me to stop. I've put the volume a bit high, or even type in the chat in case I don't see it.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, go ahead. I'm just looking at you. You could see how Steve G was just
like, if you guys have follow-up questions going forward, by all means. When I heard that you guys wanted to have this conversation, I actually it meant a lot to me, and I was like, oh, finally, I can talk to the victim's family, because I spent my entire career advocating for victims' families. I've done a lot of stuff with parents of murdered children, and this is a very hard place that it started out trying to be at, and I really appreciate you guys reaching out. And anytime you have questions, I'll give you my direct number. By all means, feel free. You guys can hit me up anytime.
Thank you.
But what I want to cover on that piece is, when we start looking at the house itself, there's a couple different things we can look at. AT&T has a very specific report, and it's called Loctobor. I know it sounds like a silly word. It's LOCDBOR, Loctobor. It's Location Database of Record. This will include estimated latitude and longitudes, and they range from 25 meters out to 3,000, 30,000 meters, so they can get very big. Historically, there's accuracy issues with this report. So if you just take all the data and you throw it on the map and you you think that's accurate, you're going to have a lot of problems. A really good example in this case is there's a time when Bryan goes up to Seattle, and one of his lope de boer hits shows him in New Orleans. So that gives you an idea of the accuracy issues. There's two factors, and like I said, I'm going to pile on a lot of data for you guys. The next thing that comes into play is the actual handset, the phone itself. iPhone actually restricts a lot of third-party apps and even the mobile carrier to some points of getting precise location data, which a lot of people don't realize. If I try to ping a phone, that phone ping can actually be screwed up by Apple itself to, instead of getting this nice, neat little GPS, I get this 5,000 meter GPS range. So you can be anywhere in that 5,000 meters. Samsung, on the other hand, is a very chatty phone. It's preloaded with all kinds of silly apps and ridiculous monitoring. If anybody's ever had a Samsung, when you first power that thing up, like there's 100 apps on that thing. It's good for law enforcement because when we get a phone that's a Samsung phone, it's typically very chatty on the network. We're going to see a lot more connectivity. Samsung's also unique that if I do certain things with certain apps that require location data, such as GPS or navigation, that accuracy from the 3,000 or the 5,000 meter ranges come down to 25 meters. And in this particular case, if you look at those precise measurements, there's probably 5 that land directly on what would be the living room of the house. Like the latitude, longitude is the physical house itself. And if you put the house back on the map and you map those, the hits are inside the house. Now,
I'm going to let you keep explaining. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So, because I haven't heard this before. So you're saying based on the data you saw, the latitude, longitude for Bryan Kohberger's Samsung was in the living room?
The AT&T derived latitude, longitude from the AT&T's network that it estimates a location, it lands in the house. And it's a 25 meter range. So, we're talking 75 feet. So it could be anywhere in the house on any floor. It could technically be outside the house. It could be on the property, but it's showing in the immediate area. My personal opinion is when I look at those and I map what's happening before and after, and I'm looking at all.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. No doubt about it. And what about a stingray? If a stingray was used to create some of these pings and the AT&T, I'm just raising an issue of manipulating records and data from AT&T, which we know the FBI has a relationship outside of subpoenas. They have their own relationship with AT&T backdoor. So it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, and it's going to grab data from everybody's phone in the area, not just from Bryan's, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's what I would think. No. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Wow. So,
why they just focus?
He says two things. He says in the living room, and then he says immediately after that, in the general area.
Yeah, because he's trying to place them where there's DNA evidence of unalivings, right? So he's trying to be. At least that's what I'm trying to gather, because the same data points that he's discussing for BK, did he look at the similar data points for any of the victims' phones? Because the victims' phones, for example, what if their phones were shown to be at another location or not at the house? I mean, there's so much we don't know. He's literally, creating that dagger for convicting BK. And why? Without addressing any other issues of reliability and any other victims' phones being used in the same manner to identify their exact location at different times.
Yeah.
So, and what about other perpetrators? Is BK's the only phone that was identified of being within the house during that time, in which he's using that information, whatever he's looking at? There had to be, which you pointed out, more than that. Who else's phone was within that general 75-foot vicinity, for example, that he's pointing out during that evening?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, Lucy, if she's in the chat, she will know a lot about this. Because I think people will challenge this leap of him saying the phone is in the living room. How does the network estimate that the phone was in the living room? It's a big stretch.
It is. And he first started off that it's unreliable, right? All this stuff is, and then he's saying he's relying on AT&T's data. We don't even know. It's kind of like the AI algorithm of Othram. How do you know it's even reliable unless you understand what they were using to make those determinations? You have to have that underlying data so you could replicate it and see, is it reliable? Same thing here. We don't know what he saw and is relying on.
Yeah.
And he just gives us a general the AT&T, and he did give us the description, the local, however he described it.
Didn't the FBI say that his phone was connected to a cell tower within about 100 meters?
Yes, yes. And then you triangulate. Yeah, I mean, originally that's what they said. Yes.
Yeah.
So you go to that, and now you're getting so specific. Where did this information come from?
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very important.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see what he says.
All the other evidence, I think these are accurate locations. And, that's, and to Steve's point earlier, this is why court, I think, is so critical for this case. That's an argument to be had in front of the jury where the defense would come in and say, hey, you can't reliably say this. And the prosecution would say, here's why. When done right, I feel that they're reliable.
So when you say accurate locations, you mean you believe, based on your expertise, that he was inside the house on previous occasions?
So I'll qualify a handful of things tonight. And again, Steve, any questions that later on, by all means, hit me up. I'm more than happy to pour over anything you want to. One of the things the defense did with me early on in this case is they got outside of the geolocation data and they said, hey, as a former homicide cop, as a homicide sergeant, as a supervisor that supervises these type of investigations, we're interested in anything you can find. And they poured tons of data over. Why that's important too is it's not just the phone stuff. There's a lot of stuff inside the crime scene and things that I reviewed in the crime scene. I 100% believe that the offender, who is Bryan Kohberger, like there's no alternative theory in my head at this point. He's been in the house before. I think there's absolutely no doubt he was familiar with the basic layout of the house. I'm not saying he was intimately familiar with the entire house, but he had a working knowledge of the house. The house is laid out very weird. I've been through the house. The path that was taken, what we see is what occurred in the house, him coming and going from the neighborhood. There's prior knowledge. There's no doubt in my mind that there's prior knowledge. So that also helps support some of this. One thing I want to kind of circle back to, Bryan, and Steve, you'll find this in my report.
Interesting, he brings up prior knowledge, right? And
Yes.
he also brings up the layout of the house, which I mentioned to you just before we talked. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it goes to it's premeditation. So he's saying it wasn't just he's going to the intent that he planned this out. He's basically stalked, or however you want to define it. But those are the impressions he's trying to give out. But could he also have been going there because he was a federal asset? Maybe he was actually involved in a possible operation that involved the house. I'm not saying it could very well be that aspect, because we don't know where Cy Ray's getting his information. Right. And I always thought about it. I don't mean to just go on a little tangent here, but to me, when we hear about these 12 visits, right, from August or however it was, late August to November 12th, right? To me, flags are raised here, and it suggests to me that his TA, like his teacher assistantship at WSU, Right. Usually at these PhD level courses or just even night courses, they're once a week. So could it be that he was going to University of Idaho weekly as a assisting some professor there? Could be a law professor, don't know, or another criminology department that had that aspect. And they do use teachers' assistants from other universities, and we would be under that pandemic umbrella. So it just raises a question. If he was going to the University of Idaho, to me, it suggests that he was there weekly for other reasons, right? At least to me, that's just my opinion, and not so much as casing or stalking or laying the groundwork to do unalivings. To me, it suggests that he was more involved in potentially assisting in an operation. Just to me, that's sorry to go off on a tangent there, but
No, it's very interesting.
so we could go on. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, but we could continue.
Okay, let's play.
And it took me weeks to get the defense to allow me to put this in my report. They didn't want me to put it in there. There are third-party databases that collect what is called MAID ID, so mobile advertiser ID. And you guys have all experienced this where you've searched for, I don't know, a pair of shoes. You've Googled a new pair of shoes you think you wanted. And then 2 days later, you're surfing the internet and some ads are popping up for those shoes. That's based on your mobile advertiser ID. It's a unique number, but there's third-party databases that collect that. And typically when they're collecting that type of information, it gets a latitude, longitude stamp with a timestamp. So we can actually see. Law enforcement can access those databases. You have to have a search warrant. There's a process to go through. In my report, what you'll find is towards the very end of it, I actually lay out that, hey, there's more than reasonable suspicion here to believe that this phone has been inside the residence or very close to the residence on these dates. Typical criminal investigation, we would go look at these third-party databases, pull all the mobile advertiser ID data from those dates. Forget the 13th. His phone is off. We're never going to get his phone in or near the house on the 13th, and that's where all the photos is. But if we go back to pattern of life and we pull these other dates leading up to the crime, I feel incredibly confident that they're going to get a precise GPS. Now I'm talking 3 meters, so now we're talking less than 10 feet at around and very close.
So now he's saying
The idea that I put this in my report.
Sorry, he's saying 3 meters, which is different than what we originally heard, right?
Yes, now he's getting more. He is, yeah. And what's concerning is that he's merging two different things also when he talks about third-party databases. Again, this is kind of like a Vargas situation. So a third-party database, and he talks about warrants, but third-party databases, either the feds use or purchase third-party data as a purchaser, and they could view information that way, or they use another third party to acquire that information, and then it gets sifted to the feds through another third party. So they're backdooring gaining information that they normally would have to get a warrant for. So they do that under a surveillance prong, and then they use that information to then seek a warrant, and they reconstruct what they illegally did, and they hide that information of how they illegally obtained or circumvented the rules, like the terms of service of databases regarding IGG. So in a similar capacity, they're doing the same thing, but he's being very coy about how he's saying it. He brings up third-party databases and also talks about warrants, but you know, he's creating the illusion of following the law. At least the feds were. Now, this could also be a way of, you know, to me, it raises all these questions. And again, I think it also helps BK at the end of the day, because you have to know, how is this information obtained? Did you violate the terms of service? Did you violate and did you circumvent the rules of getting a warrant initially by using third-party vendors and or contractors to get the information you wanted, and then seek the search warrant to obtain the information, and then conceal what you did regarding those third-party vendors. So, yeah, very concerning.
Jeez. Okay, let's go on.
I said, this is the kind of follow-up I would expect to have, and nobody ever, I fully expected, as soon as I dropped that report that January, that by February, March, we were going to see discovery on this new unit. They didn't even look at it. They didn't even bother with it. It's incredible.
If they looked at it, they wouldn't have understood it. We heard that in court when they were talking about a JSON file and how you can edit it and how like that was some kind of weird anomaly. It's like that's what the file's for. That's what you use it for. I mean,
Manipulating files
to the audience, but the lack of knowledge inside that courtroom at certain times was very frustrating to me. And I mean, I wouldn't hire my own people. I would. Shadow Dragon, I've said it multiple times. They have OS lint. They were like, Steve, the same emails they're using in this court case are the same emails we're tracking back to your children. But we're not doing it for free. They weren't like a Syray. They're like, I think there was a 30K. Don't quote me on that, but I that's what my mind wants to tell me. It was like 30K. And they said, we're not giving it up on a case this big. We keep doing, because we're highly in demand. We're not going to take a case this big and not get stiff with the payment. We're not making that message. But they literally said, we can literally tell you that he's been connected to these people through his fingerprint of his emails and things that he was doing online. It's a whole science that they have out there and touch points, and they put it all together. He was very confident, and he said they're refusing to give me any money. They want to do it for free. And to that point, the Cellbrite, the Barnharts ended up didn't have to do it, but they did it for free, just like Syray. So there was these decisions being made, not over the right decision. It was, I don't know what it was, but evidence was being missed in a case that the world was watching, and we can do better. We can learn from our mistakes, and we can do better, and that's why we're here right now.
And, you know, Steve, if you think about it, let's push that price up to 50K. When you look at the amount of money that was spent on this investigation and bang for the buck, spend the 50K. It's probably the best thing you're going to spend on this case, because it's going to show that I think those concrete connections. I do have a question. I think you guys might be interested in this. I believe that the girls went to the A&W. There's a little A&W and a little store.
I know exactly. Yeah, right down the street.
I think this was a routine thing that they hit on a regular basis. And I'm really curious to some of the background there. But one thing that I've always said is missing, and it's really bothered me. Has anybody ever approached you guys on what's called VICAP? Have you ever heard that word VICAP? Or it's basically a history of the victims to everything of where they shop. If they order pizza, where they order pizza. Has anybody ever approached you in this investigation to try to?
Closest we got to they were scared once I hired a lawyer. They just stopped talking to me. And my lawyer said they'll answer questions, but to the point of they're not going to be witnesses because they didn't want the gag order to fall over. I told my lawyer I want the ability to speak.
You know about this Big Amish, right?
Well, his investigation team.
No, I mean he's talking about VICAP.
I'm sorry. Say that again. He's talking.
Syray was talking about VICAP, the database run by the FBI.
Oh yeah, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. He's certainly pointing to that, but he's also saying how. I mean, who has access to that?
So that if he's talking about that, doesn't he have special security clearance, as you mentioned?
I would, yes, he does. And, was he given privy to that information? Because don't forget, he could wear different hats. He could be hired by the feds because he's no longer. So when he gets this information, let's just play this out a little bit. So he was a former defense expert made for a specific issue. Okay, that's all gone down. That's expired now, right? He's no longer a defense expert because the case is over. He could have been hired by the feds now as a contractor to review and then be provided that information so he could analyze it. So he could be wearing different hats at different times, right? And it kind of makes sense that he is actually doing that. So he's, a question, and I don't think it's ever been raised. If Cy goes on another show in the past 2 months, are you under a federal contract of any type? That's someone with the FBI or DOJ, whatever. Just ask him questions regarding his contracts that currently exist. And is he a federal contractor at this point? And could he talk about it? So that is a huge red flag. I'm glad you pointed it out, but also shows you that he has to be questioned about this so we could understand where is he coming from with this pivot? What caused the pivot? Because he never addresses it. He just says he has access to this information.
It's quite interesting.
That can't happen. Yeah. So you got to test them on where that comes from.
Okay, let's play. Sorry.
Speak on behalf of my child. If anything comes to the point where they're going to put a gag on me, then they can't talk to me. And I had nothing to hide. It was just, you're not going to control me like an asset. I'm going to speak on my daughter's behalf, or going to jail for one or the other.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Steve G. It raises a big question.
This is what you keep saying. You said this before, Bigomish.
Okay. Wow. That is, these words just don't fall out of thin air. So that had to be discussed, where Steve G is being provided information as well. He must be a federal contractor, but he's also a victim's parent. So again, it's wearing two hats or multiple hats. So he has to be careful what he says. And that makes more and more sense now, at least to me. I'm just trying to piece things together here. Why, Steve G's talking about a gag order, now a federal asset. Well, it suggests he may be one as well.
Yeah, what you've said, and it's just little things that he says that hints at that.
Yep, 100%. But now you know why he's also given leeway, because he's the parent of a victim. So it's like he's given some leeway, but he does hold back certain information, and then he releases certain information at different times. Maybe gets the okay that he could discuss, for example, the Alford plea or the judge pushing information or whatever it is. It seems things are controlled and timed.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a question, Bigomish. Becky asked a question here, which is quite interesting also. She said, how did they get his phone in the house if his phone was off? Or is he talking about the previous visits? But also, yes, how did they get his phone in the house if the phone was off?
And that raises the question with this the Stingray, doesn't it? Among other things. That's an excellent point. So if it's off the cell, if they can't track it until it turns back on, at what point in time are they saying, was it on? And at what point in time? So he's not giving specifics. He's just giving generalities, right? And giving you the, oh, trust me, bro, situation, and demonizing, or just making you feel like he did it, and here's what the proof I have, and I've seen it. So trust me on it. And we could put him right in the house. Excellent point, though. How is it if it's turned off? Is it done by spoofing? But to be, again, I'm looking at it from a PCR perspective. What he's raising is actually perfect as to why you need discovery in the PCR level, is to get exactly what Cy has reviewed now, to demonize him. Because if the result of the PCR is you get the plea vacated, you now have a potential tainted jury pool on what Cy Ray's talking about. He's tainting a potential jury pool.
Mm-hmm.
So
They've been doing that since the very start.
Yeah.
And then
So all this is
Roy
relevant.
Priest brought up also another interesting comment here. He's possibly utilizing LOCB. Oh, sorry, let me read properly because I don't have my eyes.
Oh,
LOCDBOR data. What is that?
that's the data he's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the data that he was been provided by AT&T. I'm looking at it. It's proprietary. It's very similar to Othram, again, or Apple for that matter. They are not going to give you or allow their proprietary information to be discussed in court. However, you use third-party vendors to access information, and this is the back door. This is all BS. It's all smoke and mirrors. And so it raises a question, because that kind of information you can't put on AT&T to give you that proprietary software and how they access it or how it's constructed. So, and usually they're allowed to bypass that and give summaries, right? That's how you know that the feds are behind it. They give summaries to the state prosecution to admit into evidence. That's the problem. And we're seeing it play right live on this show right now, is how the feds have access to this information and are making statements, yet the defense will not have the ability to test the very raw data and analysts who are using that data to come to these conclusions. Who created those records for Cy Ray to be able to make that determination? Who did it? What analyst was involved in it? Because just like we know with Miss Woods, right, the DNA analyst in Colorado, you can manipulate data to give a specific or force a specific narrative to an individual, or point to a certain individual, or there are more individuals that they ignore, just like the hair with Turvey. There were other people, it wasn't BK's hair, so they ignored testing the rest of the hairs. Well, is that fair? And shouldn't the defense be allowed to test that hair or figure that out, be provided that avenue? So all of this is pointing to backdoors and concealing evidence and just pointing the finger to one person while ignoring the others, at the very least, were involved and involved much more, right? Having a touch DNA on a sheath is much different than having someone's blood at the crime scene. That person has a larger signature and footprint within the crime itself, just on that data point alone. But yet, we don't know who those other male DNA are. There was male B and D, maybe more as well. We don't. So, and they didn't care to figure it out. Or there could be, again, on a parallel proceeding aspect, there could be federal sealed indictments involving these other individuals that we don't know about. And they're just waiting for the right time. So,
do you think they'll ever unseal them?
They'll unseal them when they usually make the arrest. So there could be an ongoing operation still ongoing, and that's why they haven't unsealed them yet, because they want to make sure they get as many people charged as they can, because once you unseal a federal indictment, people are going to be fleeing. And I'm assuming these are individuals who have the ability to make their presence basically go ghosting real quick. So that's why you use the sealed indictments, to allow for the investigation to actually have the ability to charge as many people as they can, so people won't flee once it's unsealed.
Wow. Okay, let's keep listening what he's gonna say here.
Yeah, we never got there. We got to the passwords. We got to usernames. They hit Olivia up. Olivia got into the cloud ID. Like, Olivia hacked.
Oh,
It's fake. Like, we know
What?
the passwords.
I didn't know. My God, that's
He just keeps talking. Oh wow. It's just like he's the mouth of the South.
yeah. In the chat, I was talking about spoofing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Go, Big Amish. I stopped because the minute she started talking, I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, it is wow, because he's talking about how you could spoof someone's identity and search terms by,
Let's just watch
hacking
that
them.
again. Hold on a sec. I just want to go back and make sure I heard it right.
I mentioned that in the chat just in general when Cyree was talking about placing BK within the house. So just like a stingray could spoof your location or remove you from a cell tower and make your phone maybe go dead, you could also do that with your digital footprint, email, search terms. And Steve G is saying Olivia does this.
Oh, hold on. Let's see what
or hacks. I want to know what else he says about it. I'm sure he's going to
Yes.
shut up.
Right?
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's see what she says. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I want the ability to speak on behalf of my child. If anything comes to the point where they're going to put a gag on me, then they can't talk to me. And I had nothing to hide. It was just, you're not going to control me like an asset. I'm going to speak on my daughter's behalf, or I'm going to jail, one or the other. So, yeah, we never got there. We got to the passwords. We got to usernames. They hit Olivia up. Olivia got into the cloud ID. Like, Olivia hacked. It's fake. Like, we know the passwords.
I knew my sister's password on her Apple device, but it would send, it was two-factor authentication. So it would send a code to her device, and they wouldn't. And still to this day, they've not handed over her phone because they say that they can't get into it. But regarding VICAP, and I apologize if I got that wrong, no, we've never ever heard that. We've never been familiar with that at all.
If you want to stop right here, just a quick thought that comes to my mind.
Sorry, let me stop there. Yeah. That's wow.
This is very concerning now because maybe they were involved. I'm not saying they are. There's just a question that comes into my mind. Olivia having the password and basically have the ability to control Kaylee's digital footprint, right? And not just Kaylee, but just focusing on her right now. Could Olivia have been involved in some capacity that resulted in the events of November 13th? In some capacity, I don't know. But this is because for her to say, well, I just accessed it. Steve G talking about hacking. He claims to have IT business, right? Is the family involved in digital, surveillance of some sort, or being an asset, as Steve G pointed out, to the feds? Could they have been involved in this in some capacity? External, however, you could let your mind run on this, but Olivia to say, or Steve G to say that she had access to her password and then go on and basically could use her digital footprint to create data points, and it's not even Kaylee. Could Olivia also been doing this for OnlyFans for Kaylee? I don't know, or other accounts that we don't even know about. But it just raises a big question. What access?
Olivia, I've always been very suspicious of that girl. Really, I have. And it's like Bryan Entin, I don't know, he's not hearing what they're saying. He doesn't hear it.
He has the blinders on. Well, we're just hearing it. We could stop it. This is just, and he knows. I'm assuming he had discussions with him before, and knowing what they're going to say. And he's part of, but he plays like a perfect character as well. Look at his face. You see Bryan hit his face just like, But yeah, this is just,
He's
amazing information, though. And I never thought about Alivea being involved, but now I
I
understand.
know. I've always felt that she's involved in some way. Remember, she was there right in the beginning, going to grab footage and yeah, she's like a
Really?
mouth. Yeah, somebody just
She went into the house? They allowed-
around the crime scene. I don't know. Yeah, she got involved pretty early with getting footage, and I don't know. She was always involved with that.
And also, just on a side note,
Somebody in the chat can confirm that.
and that fake ATF agent who wore, he wore an ATF hat, allegedly wasn't an ATF agent, but who was obviously in the crime scene that next day, that morning. I forgot the exact timing and whether you could even trust, but he contaminated the crime scene. Like, what did he do? What was his role?
Yeah. Lucy might know about this. Just comment if you do. And then Linda said, did Olivia hack Kaylee's encrypted laptop? Remember you spoke about that? She
Yes.
said Gailey gave her, she blocked her. Yes, remember, but yeah, and that's true, Linda, because remember, Kaylee was not on talking terms with her family. She had blocked them everywhere. And oh yes, okay, Dollar Child, thank you for that. She got the ring cam footage before the cops and corrected the time of Kaylee and Maddie. Yes, she did. And as you talk about that grab truck footage, there's somebody who I saw on TikTok that said that footage is manipulated. And remember, I sent it to you, Big Amish, that that footage was actually from a year prior to when this crime happened, because they said their sister was on the footage, on the grab truck footage, and that their sister had passed away.
Yes. And it raised the question again, why was that, why wasn't that pointed out? Why was that footage actually provided?
Yeah.
It's to throw us off of what? And where is the real footage? And could we trust any of the footage? Just like the disappearing videos of the people we watched.
The posts and the videos. So yeah, why was she there, right? I did hear that what Dollar Child says in the chat, that she got all this ring cam footage.
Wow.
She did, yeah.
It's just more fascinating. The more and more we look into it, there's just more rabbit holes, or just more holes to go down. But yeah, Olivia now.
What are they hiding? What are they? This whole family gives me the willies.
Yes, that's what's becoming clear. That's what's
Has
coming clear.
Has he got his cross hat on? He needs to take that off. I don't think you should be wearing that.
Yeah.
Wow. It is. I would just wanted to correct with the chat. Sometimes, you remember things, but I do remember that Olivia was there and she was going around getting the footage. How was she allowed to do that?
Yeah. How is she, and why? Who who has provided her, this type of access? Steve G being involved, I mean, it makes, just our opinion, right? But it certainly makes sense and suggests maybe he's involved. I could see that.
Bryan Entin needs, I don't know how to say this in English. What do you say? Like a snot clap on the back of his head, because he's not paying attention.
Yeah, he's glossing over it. Like, okay, let's go to the part where we get BK in the house.
I don't think he can absorb anything without his teleprompter in front of him. Probably thinking about his next hairdresser appointment. Sorry.
Yes.
Gotta go get my new toupee.
My coif is off.
He's got a mirror in front of him. Just
Yeah. He's got to pluck his eyebrows a little
for a
more.
bit so I can just make sure that my hair's sprayed and done and everything. Yeah, Kelly, you're right. Olivia, yeah, she was. The whole family. Oh, gosh, what an interesting crowd. She was. Yeah, there's the 911 call where she was beating her husband up. She's what a character. I don't know if any of you heard that 911 call.
Wow.
Where yeah. Yep.
Now Olivia is married to. We discussed this before, but you gave the information. She has been recently married, or someone who is involved with. I forgot what it was.
Oh, no, it's Steve G's son is
Oh,
married
son.
to, yeah, the son is married to that Chronicles of Olivia. That's got the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. That's what. Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah, Lucy, check the top. Sorry, yeah, I'm joking, always. But yeah, look at her top. Yeah, mummy, you need to. She could have put a zip on. She could zoom in on that. I don't want to cut us off the stream, but yeah, got everything hanging out there.
And Steve G stating that Olivia hacked. I mean, that was his words. As an IT specialist, hacking means you're getting into someone's, system without authorization, proper authorization, unlawfully. So that's his words. Don't know exactly. Hopefully, he gets more into this. Does Olivia ever? Does anyone know? Is there any interviews where she actually talks about this in more depth?
Oh no, yeah, she does. You're gonna see it. She's a huge part of this as you watch this, interview. It's quite interesting. Yeah, no. She knows a lot more than she needs to know as just a sister. You're gonna see. You're gonna see. Right, let me play a bit.
And it's a deep dive in any information. And this has nothing to do with the gag order. There's no reason they wouldn't do that. The reason I'm asking is there's certain things that would come out in their normal pattern. Like, hey, if they ran to the convenience store, what convenience store would they run to? Is it kind of if they met friends or everybody was going to their place that they would converge? And we're getting back into the reliability of the GPS. So I don't want to get too far out of breath saying I know this happened, but there are multiple times that the device, Kohberger's device, is in the area of the house, and then it moves to that aid root area. At the same time, multiple residents of the house go to the AEW root area. So there's times where I can actually see that, and that to me, that's what we call a collision. It's one thing to have devices in a general area, but when we see the two devices track together to a point and then track back, that's incredibly telling. So, the idea that nobody has come back to you guys and said, hey, let's talk about the AEW or some of the other friends it's just mind-blowing. So I can't agree with you enough. It needs to be changed. That's why I took this case. I'm hoping in any pain and trauma that I've caused you guys, I can apologize and the sincerest respect and condolences on this thing. I couldn't imagine being in your guys' situation, having to go through this. And now, obviously, coming full circle back. But at the same time, when I first looked at this case, my initial thought was this can never be the standard investigation that we see on cases. This can never be acceptable. Brian and I were talking before you guys jumped on. After the plea deal, I actually, and against the defense, Anna was incredibly upset with me for doing this, but I've created a 1 day debrief that I've been going around the country for free, providing to law enforcement. And for you guys, hopefully this helps a little bit. We've had an incredible response from law enforcement. The service you guys got on this case, the average enforcement agency is appalled by. Since November, when I started teaching this course, we've had 300 agencies throughout the United States attended. So it's resonating. We're getting a lot of endorsement of, yes, we need to change these things. But it was really interesting to look at that, just how much fell through the cracks in this case.
So I have a quick question, and I hope that it comes across the right way. So my question is separating the murders and the burglary from the stalking. And as we know, the state never picked up stalking charges, but the FBI currently still has an active investigation.
Oh my God! I didn't.
Because of this separation.
Wow.
Or
there you go.
That this would have been something that would not have driven a charge.
This is exactly what we've been talking about.
Maybe just go back.
That they were not
for months now about parallel proceedings. She just said that the feds have an active investigation going on.
Let me play that again. Sorry, I just wanted to go back a bit because that's what I told you. You're going to see.
And how would she know?
Yeah.
Because it's not public.
Oh, hey, Scully.
Scully's in the house.
Scully's here. Don't you read your messages?
Hey, buddy.
We were worried. We were worried about you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad he's here. Good to see you. Yeah.
But what did he say there? What about the violent gay corn?
Oh, yeah. There was the. Does he say? And is this the interview where he says that?
Is that what he's saying? No, I think Scully's talking about what was it? The previous interview. Just correct us. Oh yeah, because they were talking about his. What did we talk about the last time? Was it Steve that was speaking about that? I don't know.
Oh. And if I could just jump in on one more thing, the alignment of Cy with Steve G. Don't forget, this is occurring after the PCR is filed. The WSU lawsuit, the civil lawsuit, is in jeopardy. What Cy is saying and why Steve G has reached out, in my opinion, is because Cy saves his case. Because what you normally would have in a civil lawsuit that involves someone who took a plea, you could use the plea as what's called collateral estoppel. It's issue preclusion. You do not need to litigate who caused the unalivings. It's just a question of, did the WSU and Pullman PD, whoever he sued in that chain, did they have a duty of care, and was it foreseeable that 1122 would be the target of the propensities of BK that was known to the university? So that's why this is all coming together, because he's trying to save his lawsuit. And he knows, he knows the PCR. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying once the plea is vacated, or at least even before it's vacated, WSU is going to seek to stay the proceedings, saying, wait, before we spend tons of money dealing with all this and proceeding more into the litigation, let's see how the PCR plays out, because it's a vital and a material aspect of the cause of actions filed by the plaintiffs. So that, in my opinion, it's going to get stayed. But it also provides, and what I'm seeing in the background with the nonprofit, which we talked about before in your show, is I'm sure there's a big press for Steve G to get a settlement done and use that nonprofit status of getting a donation from WSU to kind of help ease the pain of making a payment under a liability claim. It's more of a donation where the WSU looks much better in the public's view. And if they settle the case, they could say, well, we know this family has suffered a lot. It's affected both of our communities, University of Idaho and WSU. And so they can make a donation and everyone smells good. Everyone passed the smell test.
Kelly brought up something that I was telling you about. Thanks for that, Kelly. Look at that sign Ray is making. They always tell us who they are. The thumbs to the chin sign, right? Yeah, it is a sign. It is a sign. And he does it a lot. And I want you to pay attention at Olivia's fingers. So we were going to talk about that today, but it's not complete. We're going to do it as a series. Here's another ritualistic sign. Just my opinion, just for entertainment purposes only. I think the one on the top making that sign, he's part of the cult.
Wow.
Look at that. We yep.
There's a lot. There's a lot here. And this is all
You
new to
watch
me.
their body language, they always tell you who they are. They tell you who they are. They can't help themselves.
And is that an upside down cross on Steve G's hat? Isn't it supposed to reflect upside down? No, I'm teasing.
No, when he's in private, I think his head starts spinning around. No, he's not manifesting right now. He probably does do it.
Oh boy. But Bryan might be impacted. Look at him. His face says it all.
Yeah, yes. You know what? She's going to get it quite. Let's hear what she says here. Hold on.
Yep.
Burglary from the stalking. And as we know, the state never picked up stalking charges, but the FBI currently still has an active investigation. Do you think that some of those things were not picked up by the state because of this separation? Or do you think that this would have been something that would not have driven a charge or would not have been evidence of a charge that they were not actively pursuing?
Oh, now I'm just getting mad. Hold on.
I am guessing this is my opinion of it, things that I've seen. I'm happy sharing this opinion to whoever, but there's a lot that needs to be filled in for it to land where I say 100% this is what's happening. I'm about 90% here. They back themselves into a corner, into an open situation, because the problem the FBI has with stalking right now is they cannot prove stalking in the work product that they did. It'll never hold up in court. In fact, I don't think a federal prosecutor will take the case. So that's why we haven't seen the FBI proceed with that. Does the FBI have information right now, or potentially the ability to go get information to prove that case? 100%. But their problem that they have.
Tell me what that would be.
Well, it'd be that mobile advertiser ID. It would be mapping all of the AT&T records and looking at the pattern of life of Bryan over 6 months, where we see these routine travel patterns. We can see where he's going, what he's doing, how long he's stagnating there. Understanding pattern of life is everything for this case. The problem the FBI has is to make that stalking case, they're going to have to disclose or discover new evidence that never came out from the state of Idaho. And now you have these competing cases where you have a case that allegedly went through the entire process of discovery and never produced the evidence that's needed. And now for a federal case to all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, here's this other evidence. They painted themselves into a corner that they can't explain.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I feel like there's two discoveries because I've actually heard almost everything that you've said already. That he was in that house, even waited in certain locations for like extended periods of time of no movement. This wasn't the only house that he stalked. There was like a loop that he was following, and there was a couple other places that he basically stood still for a certain amount of time. Just telltale signs that this person wasn't shopping, you know, and they cross-correlated the bank records and the ATMs and all that stuff. They had some stuff, the basic old school investigations they had down, but the technical was almost like they outsourced it to the FBI. And then when the FBI were like, we're not so sure that our discovery is your discovery or our investigation is your investigation, that there was
parallel proceedings.
And when
there it is. He's telling
Yeah.
us that there's a parallel proceeding.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly right. But he's also telling us that the feds.
Thanks, Gabby. Sorry, Big Amish, they sent me something. Okay, let's see if we have time. Edie, I'm gonna save this. We might have to play it next time, but I'll save it. I'll save it for sure. Let me just see how we go with time. Is this the video from Idaho 4 revealed? Sorry, Big Amish, you can keep going. I just want to make sure that because I asked to play it, I just don't know if we're gonna have time in this. In this one, let's see. If I've got the right video, we can definitely go over it next. Let's see. Yeah, it's gonna. Is it the right one? Just tell me if it's the right one. It's from. Let's see now. It was Idaho 4 revealed. Is that the correct video? Okay. All right. Do you want me to play Big Amish?
Sure, I'm sorry. Which video are you going to play?
No. I'm not going to play it now. We're just doing this one. I see that one. I'm just looking at the video that Edie sent us. So I do want to go over it. We just might not be able to tonight.
Okay.
I'm in a different time zone as you, so don't be offended. Yeah.
We're never offended. I just wanted to comment on, this Cyrace telling us this stalking issue. I believe they're getting the public ready for the feds to. The feds case is a stalking case, right? So all of a sudden now you see, at least from what we're being told here, there's a narrative being set. So if BK walks from the state of Idaho's, you get the plea vacated, does the state of Idaho maintain the case against BK? I don't know if that's going to actually happen. I believe the feds were going to take over, and if they only seek stalking charges against BK, now you see the difference. The difference is that he's no longer under any death penalty or seeking these murder charges. Again, just speculating, but it seems like they're getting the public ready for a different style case to come out against BK if the state of Idaho, if one, the plea's vacated, two, the state of Idaho does not pursue the charges. So it's very interesting, the dynamics being played out. It just, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Okay, let's see.
When they went to go to make a case, it wasn't so clear. So as a father, I'm like, I'll fill in the gaps if I can, especially when it comes to technology. And it was an eye-opener. It was so frustrating to sit there with a guy who looks like Santa Claus, who has his consciousness, his short-term memory on a piece of paper, and has no clue about technology, never will. And there's 4 lives in the balance. It's just scary.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, this is a big problem with the FBI. The FBI has a habit of coming in on these cases. And where the problem happens is the FBI has access to things they can't get into court properly. They can't lay the foundation the way that state courts require. But they still proceed. The IGG, I will tell you, the investigative genetic genealogy on this case is overlooked at how impactful it was. As soon as they made the decision to go with investigative genetic genealogy, this case was doomed from an ethical perspective because they had to go outside of policy, they had to hide things. And now once they got the hit, you can see it clear as day. The rest of the investigation is how do we hide the IGG? Because we don't ever want to talk about the way that for me as an old school investigator that drives me crazy is Bryan Kohberger's vehicle and his name are sitting in a report that entire time. All they had to do is follow up and get a sample of his DNA. if they would have done that and stopped trying to rely or over rely on this technology of the IgG produced, I think this is a completely different case. But they crossed the line with IgG. They knew they crossed the line, and everything we see after that is nothing more than smokescreen trying to hide what actually happened to identify him.
I'll go a step further. And
There you go.
Be careful with this. I wish my lawyer was here. The IgG was done in a scripted fashion of it works. We know how it does. It went, they told me, the people that I've been around said, if we get it tossed out, it led to the dad. It never led to BK. And that's by design. It never goes to him. It goes to his father in the trash, established law, and then we got a warrant, and we got the cheek swab. We got it down. IgG is not going to ever be in court because it's a tip, and this is established standard, and we're not going to let a little podunk Moscow make court law or state law. Or
What? But that's the whole premise of his foundation.
Yes. Well, he wants it. So, yeah, he's lying through his teeth, in my opinion. But yeah, the IgG being a investigative tool, not necessarily. See, they're playing semantics on words, but ultimately they want to use it as a trial tool, not just their surveillance. So they want to get their foot in the door to establish that IgG is lawful for surveillance purpose, or not surveillance, but investigative purposes. But you have to address the larger elephants in the room, which is violating terms of service. They have to address all these issues, and how it gets addressed usually is that the Supreme Court makes a ruling on, what's due process, what's unlawful, what's not in the process. The Supreme Court is not going to, in my opinion, outlaw IgG entirely, but it will limit it and how it has to be used and what are the factors for oversight to provide that due process. Having standards, and you have to follow those standards, and what oversight. So that I foresee coming down the road, but very interesting.
Or any kind of law. This is never going to get into a courtroom because we have these established practices, and that is what it is. And if you call a tip on a black SUV that you've seen that has some kind of explosives in it and something, and you want to give that tip, well, that doesn't go into court either. So I get where they're going with it, and the greater good. I'm just a dad trying to make sure that my daughter in the system gets better, but I do see some red flags, and I know we had the right guy, and we just made it all difficult for everyone. We just made it so difficult for everyone because nobody knew what they were doing.
Except
you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it's difficult for people to grasp that we can stand behind his guilt, but not understand or agree with everything that the prosecution and state did.
Well, it's the feds who are behind it.
For us to be put in a position where we are having to defend the state's case that we don't fully understand, and there's a lot of missing pieces for us, and that's the only way that we can justify his guilt. So it puts us in a difficult position of being like, man, you guys are really making us fight for your work that you did, that you yourself won't stand behind. That's a conversation that we have a lot as a family.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Steve, with what you said, and I hate to put it in these terms, but it summarizes exactly what you said. The end result justifies the means, right? It doesn't matter how we get to him through IgG, because we have all of these bailout plans that we feel we can protect ourselves. Anytime law enforcement,
so don't matter if we used AI or gray areas, because there's a big gray area in that, isn't there?
Yeah, and they know it. Just conceptually, think about. I mean, it's a gray area to us because we always look at it from a lens of fairness, right? But their fairness is totally different. But if you just use a standard as being the rule, the measurement of fairness or due process, above that line, that rule is all fair, right? Due process. Below that line, if you fall below it, shouldn't be due process. So if you're going to violate terms of service, that line, if you fall below it, that's a violation of due process. It shouldn't be allowed. And the same thing about not providing us algorithms, or not us, but the defense. What is the algorithm AI algorithm that Othram used to create that Frankenstein DNA sample? So
Really, when they start talking about the other stuff, you must come up. We hear your opinion. They're going to get quite graphic now.
Yeah.
It takes the idea or the process or the methodology that the end result can justify the means. We're in trouble, because what happened with that is they created the situation. They realized how impactful it was now, and now the next 4 months of investigation is nothing more than trying to hide what they did at the beginning. And that's why we see the phone records were never analyzed, because they didn't need the phone records. The phone records for AT&T were nothing more than a smokescreen so that they could say, oh, look, we got this tip on the phone, we found this, and oh, that led us over here. The phone records were never gathered as a true investigative tool because they already had the narrative written. And whatever aligned with that narrative because of IDG, they brought in, and anything that contradicted that narrative, they eliminated. A really good point on this is they committed in the first search warrant to Bryan driving east on 270. Everything, and it repeats itself, on 50 different search warrants, that he traveled east on 270. Bryan Kohberger was never on Highway 270 that night, ever. He took a route north of the airport. He actually crossed 95 north of Moscow, and then he dropped back down south on the east side of Moscow, and that's why he ends up on Indian Hills, is he actually came from the east. And he did that because he's smart enough to know about the cameras. What drove me crazy in this case is when you see him go back in. By the way, the reason he went south is he panicked. Dylan saw him. He saw Dylan. A reasonable mind would say 911 is being called. And you can see in the video when he leaves, he's leaving in a hurry. If he drives back that same route, he's driving towards where Moscow PD is responding from. He's going to go right back towards the police department. So he has to go down south. When you look at 6 months worth of his records, he doesn't have activity down south. He doesn't know 95 south of Moscow. So he gets about 12, 13 miles outside of Moscow. He pulls over. There's a good gap there, which has always been a concern to me, where he sits there for probably 10 minutes. He powers his phone back on. He goes into navigation mode, and we see the route back.
It's crazy dark, too. So the audience might not know what it's like out here in Idaho. You get out in that farm community, there's no lights. We don't have it's dark as anything. Your headlights are all you have, and high grass. So it gets if you're not prepared for that, you're not going to be able to figure out where you're going. And without a phone, if that's your primary source of navigation, you're driving around like an idiot, for a certain amount of time.
Well, then, like I said, we've got 6 months of records. I've got a mapping system. I can put everything in there. I hit a play button. I can watch his phone for 6 months going around the map. When you see that morning of him coming back to,
he's pushing his
5 months of records. That's the first time he's ever done that route. And then within 48 hours, he's doing the exact same route again. And that's the last time you'll see him do that. You give me the layest of lay jurors, I can connect the dots there to have them see exactly what's happening. And right after he completes that route, he goes down to
He's
Lewiston.
selling himself to Steve G for the lawsuit.
Less than a minute or two, and then he's right back to Pullman. Like, what's happening? Of course we know what's happening.
Sorry, I'm just going to pause
So,
you.
yeah.
He's talking about the route, right?
Yeah, to me, he's selling himself to Steve G for the WSU lawsuit, in my opinion. I mean, this is all coming because he has to, for $100 million, Ray's software application or mapping, whatever he's doing, is going to serve Steve G well, in my opinion. That's what this is all about.
Oh, Scully sent a post. And just before that, who said that? Who wouldn't panic if they saw Dylan?
Yeah, there is something odd.
But, yeah. So 2 hours ago. Okay, thanks for this post. It says here. And this is from True Crime Design. You guys should go over to her channel. She's really good. This woman. Okay, let's see. It says January 31, 2023. There's a private detective hanging out in the Northwest. Actually, there are several, but there's one that is not working for the defense or the one that is working for an insurance company. No, this other detective is actually working for a pair of documentary producers who want to see if there's an angle other than the obvious. These producers specialize in offering alternatives to what everyone thinks are slam dunk cases. The investigator and his team probably believe the standard narrative. No one knows though. What everyone does know is that one of the parents offered up an offspring for sex for much of their tween years, and another parent sold parent offspring naked videos. The question is whether the documentary will be finished and aired before trial. Wow. Posted by ENT lawyer at 1 p.m. Oh, wow, guys.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's so let's just see. True Crime Design says, thanks to my subscriber Claire for bringing this blind item to my attention. I will send it to you, Big Amish. It was submitted to Crazy Days and Nights back in January 2023, and everyone thought I was reaching for suggesting the many trips Maddie Mogan took with the Goncalves family from the age of 13 to 18, when trafficking was disguised as family vacation. Sick, evil freaks.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been on these people for a long time. Her words, I'm not saying it.
Yeah, her words. Well, that's something to definitely look into because it's more than just, any rug activity. That's for sure.
Mm.
At least in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
can you go have a look at True Crime Design. She's very,
Yeah,
very
thank
good. She believes pretty
Thank you.
much what I've thought all along, that this is trafficking. That's the parallel investigation.
Yeah. And it allows him, it provides him protection in why he holds himself out to be basically law enforcement. We're coming,
Mhm.
we're coming after you, and all these things. It's just,
Yeah, that's why he's got all those shell companies that basically only exist on paper.
yeah, and he's being protected to have it, so he's
Mhm.
able to basically dabble into the criminal activity area, but as part of and with the consent of the feds to do that in order to expose or get other individuals that they want. So as a federal asset, makes perfect sense. Not saying he is
Mhm.
or isn't, but it suggests some
Just
sort of involvement.
really bad if that is true, right?
Yeah, just mind blowing. But yeah,
All right,
ooh,
let's keep going.
I'm with you guys on the frustration. My apologies. Like, you guys should never have been in that situation. This is an FBI issue, and I'll frame this piece. I don't put this out publicly very often. When the plea deal was reached, I contacted the FBI CAS team, and I actually told them, hey, I did a lot of the investigation here. I know what the cross-examination that you guys were going to be subjected to looks like. You name your place, I'll fly to you anywhere in the country, and I will give you the full debrief of what I saw on my side and how we could get better. They never returned my call. So, even reaching out saying, I'll give you as much insight from the defense perspective of this to be better prepared next time, they're just not interested. And the other thing that I will tell you guys just drove me crazy, now that my report's out, your guys' last name is all over that report because I did an inventory. I put in, hey, here's what the phones were provided, and then I listed the phones by last names. The only last names in my report that were redacted are the FBI agents that worked on this case. So all of the victims' last names are in this report that went out to the public with the last 4 digits of their phone, but the FBI agents get their last name redacted? Like, what is that? That is insane.
Happening a lot. It's really.
If you off record. If you ever want to know about some of the worst, we'll let you know, but I won't propagate them here publicly.
I just want to go back for a second to something you said, Sai. So with the A&W, which is that gas station right down the road from the house.
Love A&W.
So you're saying you mapped his phone and also, was it the victim's phones at the same time there?
Correct. And there's movement where they're all in the area of the house before that, and then we see it pop up over by the A&W, but they're together. They're at least mapping, and they're mapping not the exact same lat longs. They're just slightly off, but they're within meters of each other, which is, for me, that's a tall tale sign that we're getting better accuracy, because sometimes the system will default if there's a problem with the system, and everybody will get the same lat long ping for like a 5,000 meter radius. But all of the lat longs are identical. In this case, they're just slightly different. They're just a couple meters apart, and it's a pattern. It happens multiple times. There's also an incident, and it was the second, I'm going to screw these dates up, but I can give them to you guys later if it's important. It was the first weekend after school started, and I believe it was Kaylee and Maddie went to Pullman, and I believe there was some type of a sorority, maybe fraternity party, and it's in the apartment complex right next to Bryan Kohberger's apartment. And at one point, Bryan Kohberger's phone moves over to that apartment complex as well, and that's rare. He doesn't typically hang out in that complex. But this is all the way going back in August, that first weekend after school started, the phones intersect in Pullman.
Yeah, the prosecution was doing the exact same thing. They were trying to take his phone activity and cross-correlate it with the other people in the phone. They wanted to know who was in the house at a certain time because the route, they wanted to plan the route to who was in there because they were trying to figure out who was he after. And Olivia can tell you the exact day that Kaylee moved in there. I think you said it was like May.
Yeah, into the King Road house. She did move in May.
Yeah, so other people speculated there was no one in the house, or only Maddie was in the house. We've never tried to play the blame game. We don't care about that. Who's to blame is BK, and we're holding him accountable. None of the victims. Like,
How did he not know when Kaylee moved into the house?
Very, very odd, isn't it? Because and just one thing, Cyray making these statements about BK, being at a party with Maddie and Kaylee, or making that implication. I mean, I think it raises a question of legal liability against Cyray, because even if someone's convicted, he's making these statements that are, at the very least, not true. As just in that context of saying there was a party, they went all there together. If it's true, that's a whole different story. But he pivoted, right, with prior to saying there was no, cell phone, and from the cell towers of Bryan being in the area, and then he flips. But these statements also help BK. I'm just saying, I don't know what to make out of it, but flags are coming up again. It's suggesting to me that maybe BK did have a relationship, and what I mean by that, with Maddie and Kaylee, but as informants. So it's suggesting to me that if they did know each other, or they did meet, they were meeting because they were either sharing information, creating these data points of something, of an operation that they were exposing, and then they get caught up in it. That's what it's suggesting to me. Not anything nefarious on BK's part, although that's always a possibility. But for these facts to be trickling out and then talking about a federal stalking, to me, it's okay. He is involved with students in gathering information regarding a home, a residence that is used for a certain type of activities, and not just one, but probably multiple. That's what it's suggesting to me. Could be wrong. Just it's suggesting that. Don't know.
Could be. All right. Let's see what they say here.
another thing I appreciate you saying is no cleanup. We've really chased that down because I mean they're literally driving these young girls to the point of they don't have a life anymore. So you're not true crime anymore. You're speculation, Hollywood fan fiction crap. And I would love for true crime to get back on focus and say, how do we make the world a better place? How do we make sure that people are coming together to actually have less murders and mass murders every single year? That's what we should work towards, not this fan fiction stuff. I mean, so that's part of the reason why we're here today. This is why we've been so dedicated. This is why we made a charity. This is why we have Murder Has a Name. We're doing everything in these girls and these victims' names, Ethan as well, and making sure that the world's a better place. Really, it's just the world's a better place when this is said and done.
Yeah.
You said no cleanup, Ty. I mean, right? That you
There's no cleanup. He was in and out. We're talking minutes. And, I'm limited on some of this information. There was some reenactments that I know were done. And the reenactments, this crime could clearly be carried out by a single individual, and it's 5 to 6 minutes. And if push ever came to shove and that had to be proven in court, I know there's video out there of the reenactments. Like, there is no doubt that this is a single offender. But on that point, I think you're hitting at it's frustrating to see is, Turvey wants to say that there's cleanup because of things that are absent,
Sorry, Big Amish, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just plenty of videos out there showing one perpetrator being able to do this. What's more likely, just common sense wise, more likely, is it more than one perpetrator or one? I'm sure it's a preponderance of anyone considering this that there's more than one perpetrator. I think that's pretty clear just from the DNA that was involved. You have blood DNA of male B and D. So to me, at least there's 3 people. If you consider Bryan, I'm just saying, even if you consider BK as one, so there's at least 3 people involved, if not more. And then I think I see Graham's in the chat. Hello, Graham's. I reached out to her just.
Grams, how are you?
Yeah, I reached out to Graham's the other day because I haven't heard from her. I just wondering if she was okay, and she's having all her grandchildren are going out to the U.S. Air Force, and a lot to be proud of, Graham's. So.
Oh, Grams, how are you? let me keep my eye back on the chat quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Always nice to have you. Always nice to have you. Where are you going the weekend?
What is she up to?
Let me go back to the chat quickly.
And someone mentioned, I can't remember where someone mentioned, okay, if the party is by BK's apartment, isn't Kopacka near there? I mean, I don't know if they go into this. I doubt they're going to talk about Kopacka, but if they do, it would be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, how far does Kopacka live from this alleged party, or at least BK's apartment? Very interesting.
He stayed very nearby. He did. He stayed very, very close by.
It's just, but in a matter of minutes, someone, burglarizes the home. First, he's a burglar. And by the way, if you remove the burglary charge, if there is no burglary, what does it suggest? The crime scene then is something that involves someone inside, who's an insider, well known to the residents there. So I think it's a very important issue because Alivea talked about the burglary originally.
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned that. I just want to comment on it. So if you remove the burglary, like he came in, he had to break in. If no one broke in, that means they were there. Who was there? Who would be there? Who would be there that the victims would be so comfortable with? It raises those questions because that's exactly what it would be. So it would be an inside, basically, job I'm not talking about DM or Bethany. I'm just saying it would be someone who they feel very comfortable with. So if they're having their own little party, who's there, who's present, and that they feel so comfortable with, and
Mm-hmm.
that individual or those individuals are the ones who turned on them. That's what it suggests. If you remove the burglary,
Yeah.
just looking at it from that
Yeah, because
perspective.
how would you get in? How would you get in there?
Yes.
Says here.
Yeah.
Basically, there's things that aren't in a bathroom, therefore it's indicative of cleanup. There's no evidence of what that bathroom looked like before or after. Like, if we start building a case on that type of speculation, Bryan Kohberger's going to walk, right? That's just absurd. And I felt a deep obligation to call Turvey out. And, I'm going to piece something together for you guys. And I've been on the fence if I should voice this, but I think it's the right thing to do. So if I get in trouble later on, so be it. Don't get caught up in what I believe is a very rehearsed scam that is happening right now. If you look at what's happened over the last 3 months, let me help you guys connect some dots. Brett Turvey gets with Whitcomb, who's another idiot. Like, the guy who's never investigated a homicide is going to be the armchair quarterback that's going to change this thing, right? So Turvey and Whitcomb partner up. Turvey becomes very outspoken about this, and what does Ann Taylor do? She publicly reprimands him and issues this cease and desist. If you think about what Turvey's saying Bryan Kohberger is innocent, that this is a big conspiracy, that there's other people. I mean, he goes as far as saying Dylan is potentially how absolutely absurd. Yet Ann Taylor reprimands him from proclaiming BK's innocence. I come out with a book. I go around to law enforcement. Ann knows. I told her I was going to go teach law enforcement. I have been very, very clear. I've always thought Bryan Kohberger is guilty. I think in 10 out of 10 courts in America convict him.
He never said that in the beginning. He's talking.
Yeah, you're right. He never did say that. 100%.
He never did. He actually said it was a deliberate attempt to frame Bryan. Oh, wow. Oh, this guy. He is really pompous, arrogant, actually.
It certainly comes off that way. There's no doubt. He needs to
everybody in the chat's quite funny. He's a ninja. It's like, that's what I said. He's like a little mozzie flying in there. Because how did he get in? How? You can't leave no footprints, nothing.
But do you see how Cy Ray? I'm just picking up on it as well. Cy Ray's trying to create a narrative that they knew each other, and if they knew each other, it goes to the foreseeability. Again, I'm pointing to the civil liability. Why I think this is all about WSU. You see my point?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden now you have Cy Ray giving statements, whether they're true or not. I'm just taking it for what it implies to me and suggests that they had a relationship. BK knew about the home, the layout of the home. So now you have a foreseeable zone of danger at 1122. So if Steve G has to proceed without the plea establishing a collateral estoppel issue on BK's actions towards 1122, now you have the additional facts that Cy Ray's providing to establish why, if WSU knew about the propensities, the dangers involving BK, that those propensities and dangers now extend, if you use the statements made by Cy Ray, to 1122. Does that make sense? Do you see? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
So very interesting. I that's what I see. And whether we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, thanks for that, Becky. He did. He lived very close. I don't think Kopeka was actually involved in this. Not the way they went in there. Linda, is it only me? Steve looks like he drinks too much chamomile herbal tea.
Chamomile is supposed to make you calm. Maybe if you drink too much of a calming effect, it reverses.
Nah, I think he drinks other tea.
Yeah. Space tea. How about that?
Yeah, imagine making a cup of that. No, I don't know. What is he drink? What is he drinking?
Yes.
Oh wow, what is he drinking?
We could all
He's drinking
speculate.
something. He's on something. We know what Olivia is on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. They're all losing weight. From what I remember watching Olivia and Steve G.
Oh yeah, did you see? They were calling Jules. Somebody said that they threatened, or the family threatened her. I heard something about that.
I heard Harsh talk about that the other day. I
Really?
didn't know that. That's very that is, yeah. I don't know who is doing it. I don't know if it's, but just attacking someone in their family. I mean, she has children, if I'm not mistaken, and that's that shouldn't be happening. That should be now. That's a federal offense.
Yeah,
And
that
I
is
don't know what was said, but if it causes someone to have it has a chilling effect. If you feel someone's threatening you because of what you're saying, and it impacts you from saying what you really want to say on YouTube, although it's it's a private forum in that regard. Although much of the
I'm not going to say what they're drinking, but I could give you guys a hint. Okay. Do you want me
what
to?
is
It'll be audio only. Tell me if you guys get it. All right, hold on. I'll play the music. So this is what I think they're having. If you
okay.
guys get it, it's funny. Okay. Hold on. I'll play the audio and then we can go back to the video. This is a famous South African song for the specific kind of tea and stuff that people smoke. Anyway, let me play it.
Tobacco products and related that we should not open up the sale products. And the reason are health related. But also when people sold, they put saliva on the paper and then they share that soil. It means they are also sharing people's soil.
That is great.
Saliva.
Where's Scully when you need him? He can.
But also they are moving saliva from one to the other, from one to the one, from one to the other. And then they share that soil. People's soil.
It's a great beat here.
I need to actually put that on. Hold on, let me see if I can share it. You guys need to see this.
That is.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me see if I can share it and go back to this. This is my favorite. So in this country called it Zol. All right, let's go. Let's see if I can open it up. Hold on. Don't judge me, guys. I love this song too much.
Yeah.
More than I should. Okay. Let's see if I can open it. Oh yeah, hold on.
When it comes to cigarettes.
All right, let's go here. Let me just pour it. I hope I don't get struck down for this, but it's okay. Let's see if I can do that. Let's go back to that one. I'll put the other one back on now, but this one's funny. Okay. All right, let's go. Can you all see it?
I see it on the screen. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me play it.
When it comes to cigarettes, tobacco products, and related, that we should not open up the sale products. And the reason are health related. But also when people sold, they put with the paper, and then they share that soil. It means they are also shared if when people soil, they put saliva with the paper, and then they share that soil. But also they are moving saliva from one to the other, from one to the other, and then they share that soil.
Oh,
When it comes to cigarettes, tobacco products, ventilated.
wow. That is some potent stuff.
And the reasons are health related. But also when people swallow, they put saliva and they share that soil. It means they are also shared if when people swallow, they put saliva and they share that soil.
Oh wow, sorry. I'm
We
very
always
childish.
need a little laughter. That was great.
Oh wow, I can't even with these people. Sorry, I'm very childish. Oh wow.
We need that. We definitely need. I need it. That's a nice breakup.
So
Especially
this song came in with lockdown, and they
great
and then
song.
what happened was they okay. Oh, we got the others back on.
It got a
So
big following. I could see
it
during the
did. This
pandemic.
was the Minister of Health, and she said we have to stop Zol in this country because people put saliva on the paper. So it was the actual speech, and then this guy just ran with it, and he made a song, and it went viral. So everybody was doing TikTok videos, and it was just fun, and when people saw.
I could see
I
it.
don't, to this day, I can't even, if somebody says, put saliva on the paper, then, oh, guys, no ways. Oh, wow.
A nice visual for Ray. How about
Take
that?
it, Grams. Grams, yeah. Actually, when I was playing it, I was dancing. Yeah, I kind of just like that. Kind of looks like Brian running around with his underwear off in that video.
He's going to do a reenactment of BK. How about that? The BK unalivings by
Yeah.
Ray.
I went to go buy some Zol and put saliva on the paper.
That was for the
I don't know who
adrenaline.
took your message, but yeah, it is. I'm telling you, it makes you get down. You just want to go. Oh wow! All right, let's go for it.
Yep.
This kid, every single time we go to court, he gets convicted. The question is, does all the evidence come in because of some of the ways that the evidence was managed, which is a whole different conversation. But I am very outspoken that Bryan Kohberger is the guy. Why hasn't Ann issued a letter to me about breaching my NDA or all this stuff? I will argue any day of the week. What I am saying is way more detrimental to the defense's case than what Brian Turvey said, or Brent Turvey, and she did the one with Turvey. If you guys look at the picture, and here's the critical dates. The Thursday before the plea deal, Ann says in open court, Your Honor, I can't effectively represent my client if I don't get the continuation. So you have the primary attorney on this case saying in open court, it's one of the last statements she made before the plea deal, I cannot effectively represent my client.
Yeah,
those are not small words for an attorney to say in open court. And then
I would have allowed him.
72 hours later, we have a plea deal, and the way the plea deal came down, the way you guys were notified is disgusting. I've never seen that in 30 years. Like that, there's all kinds of craziness going on there.
We just learned that his family was there at the plea deal. His family was there, so they learned before we did. That's the disrespect that we
What are you getting at, though, Si?
Disrespect.
What you're trying to say a little more. I'm
We
just
have
trying
the
to follow.
ineffective counsel claim. We have the plea deal gets worked out within 72 hours. And Taylor stays on as Kohberger's attorney. Like this last year, she's the only person on the jail logs that was visiting him on a regular basis. He hasn't sought out new counsel. She's very much in his ear on a daily basis. We
So
didn't see the turvy
he's saying something different.
where, hey, there's all this conspiracy. Anne has to separate herself from that and says, oh, I don't agree with this. I'm going to reprimand you guys. Like, don't say these things. And now we see Bryan drop. And I knew the appeal was coming. In my book that I sent to the publisher in February, which is a manual, it's not a Bryan Kohberger tell-all, I put it in the book. Like, the appeal is coming. There's no doubt about it.
You called it before it happened.
And what I'm convinced about is Turvey and Anne are together on this. Turvey and Anne are not at odds. Anne needed some new information because that's the only way an ineffective counsel gets legs at all. They need something new to get spun up. They need it to be very well known. And now there has to be the separation where Anne is helping Bryan, but not directly involved. And who takes that role is Turvey. So Turvey comes out, says all this nonsense. Bryan writes his thing. The last missing piece, and mark my words, I think we're going to see in the next 60 to 90 days, Anne will absolutely fall on her sword for BK. She is she has a relationship with him.
That's been the theory all along.
Wow. Days, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the timeline, and she's going to eat.
They keep using your words. Big Amish, are you talking to them behind the scenes?
Yes. Wow. Everything was laid out. Ann Taylor, right, being the attorney behind the scenes, assisting BK. And he also said something interesting, that Ann's been visiting BK throughout this past year. I forgot on what interviews someone said, oh, well, Ann Taylor has not, and maybe I'm blurring just videos that I've been watching as well.
Somebody else that said, yeah, she's not. Yeah.
She's not. So, but then let me just point out something spatially, time-wise. Cy Ray's pivot occurs, I believe, after the PCR is filed. That's very important because that's when Ann Taylor's no longer representing BK officially. And therefore, what Cy Ray says that would be in violation of an NDA. Ann Taylor doesn't control that anymore. So, of course, Ann Taylor wouldn't be saying anything to anybody at this point, whether they're violating an NDA or not. It would be BK or his new counsel. So that's important to note.
Okay, let's go.
The ineffective counsel. She's going to say he's right. I missed it. I should have known about it. And
big break moment. I just looked at it with a new lens, with this new thing. Yeah. I'm going to go even further. I'm going to let some stuff out of the back. So I've talked to some authors, and so they actually have footage of BK boxing. He's an amateur boxer. They have a whole thing of him in a ring. 3 minutes, 162 punches. 160. That was going to be like, oh, he couldn't do 150 in 12 minutes. Now they have him in 3 minutes throwing blows of 162 times. So there was more than enough time. There was actually more time for you to go in and maneuver and do things, change clothes, whatever you did. There was time there, and they were going to show him physically doing it against another human being that was willing to fight him. And these people are sleeping in bed. They had a really good plan. Some parts they were going to execute really well. Other parts they didn't execute as well. But to anyone who thinks that somebody could go in there, they didn't have enough time, you don't know your facts. They were going to show you to your face.
So you think, Sai, right? I mean, you would know, I guess, you were on the inside, that Ann Taylor actually believes he's innocent and has an unhealthy relationship with him?
What?
I am concerned about the ongoing
Where did that come from?
communication, the protection, just that. I don't know how else to explain it, almost as like a motherly instinct with Bryan.
What?
To Steve's point, 100%. The
Could you replay it?
What? Listen to this. Now it's going to get, now the chat's going to go.
My head is spinning.
Inappropriate behavior.
Unbelievable. She's visiting her client.
Wow.
But what's his
Not
basis
only
for saying that?
visiting him, she's taking him some stuff, sending him pictures, whatnot.
Oh my God. This is the first time I'm ever hearing about it.
Me
Or
too.
this,
That's what I said. I wanted to go over this one. It's hilarious. Listen to them. Jeez.
okay.
Way more involved on that plea deal than the victims' families ever were. I believe that there were conversations going from the jail in real time of this thing going down. There's no doubt about that. But I've done a lot of these cases. I've done a lot of death penalty cases. It is very unusual for the defense attorney on the case, especially one who's technically a public defender, to stay involved and active with the defendant in prison visitations the year following a plea deal. That is incredibly rare. Like, there's no...
He's in private practice now.
No one is in contact with him. So the idea that it's all Ann and only Ann, and he hasn't obtained a new attorney for this appeal, to me is very telling. I think jail logs and jail calls would really expose a regular routine between Ann and Bryan that they're visiting and talking on a weekly, if not daily basis at times, which is weird. Yeah, that's unhealthy in my opinion. As
wow,
you got to keep that line between your clients, right?
Yeah, I was told by insiders that it's a small community we live in that said she's purposely after you, Steve. She's watching your interviews, making us all watch it together and coming up with discovery based off your conversations. And once I learned that, guess what? I started talking about Bluetooth. I started talking about other things and just put her on rabbit trails just to play chess with her. But I've heard some really unnatural things are going on in this case.
What? He's look at his smile too. I mean,
he was fast asleep the entire interview.
Side that we don't
right?
know about.
He's sorry.
Public.
That's all right.
He was Bryan Entin was fast asleep, and the minute you start mentioning anything inappropriate, now he's awake.
Yeah, look at them. They're all have this like smile. They're glowing. Oh my God. And inappropriate relationship. Okay, that's all. This is so new. But again, to me, I'm looking at BK's rights. Just the fact that they're saying these things would support BK vacating the plea as well.
It's just wild. These people.
It is. It is wild.
Marbles. Wow.
But Cyray's saying daily, if not weekly, daily communications. And that's what I would expect. I mean, I would expect that, especially if you know you're going to have to deal with a PCR and how you're going to develop it. You need to have those daily discussions.
Wow.
I think there's definitely stuff that has been withheld and has still been withheld. I don't know how much it was conveyed to the victims' families, universally, not just Steve and Alivea, but across the board. There's some really disturbing things on his internet history that
here we go.
Really came out that would be incredibly hard to just simply show and walk away from a jury not thinking that it's going to leave a big impact, especially on the case of this nature. I'm talking right now specifically his porn history. He's got a very disturbing history that I think really paints a picture.
And that's all non-consensual acts. And I also heard gay, male-to-male gay. Is that accurate?
I don't know on the...
What?
This is what Scully was talking about. I guess it was
real dirty, guys. Oh, wow. There you go, Scotty.
Wow. This is, and how it relates to everything. Whoa. This is just mind-blowing. So there must be somebody, I'm just reading between the tea leaves. So what does this suggest? There's somebody else or somebody else who has these tendencies that they're bringing up involved. Eventually, we're going to find out who that is. But in my opinion, I don't think this is just something they just spill out of the blue. And Alivea jumping in on it, how would she know? Did she hack
Yeah.
his account? Interesting. Very interesting.
Maybe she's confusing it with her father's account. I don't know.
Something's very weird happening
Yeah,
here.
you
Yeah.
stuff
Or you
it in.
could-
Honestly,
See what he
I
said.
don't mean this in the way it's going to sound.
Why are you
Not focused on the
laughing?
gay porn. For me,
I know what you're focused on.
yeah, for me, you hit it on the head, Olivia. The non-consensual, violent nature of the porn.
I was aware of terms
Oh
drug,
my God! What does this have
passed
to?
out, sleeping.
I would go more on incredibly violent sexual encounters. So not the sleeping or passed out, but very aware of what's happening and it being very, very
Propensities again.
which is always a tough thing for a prosecutor, or a defense attorney to get through. That's something that's going to really tell a story about somebody's character. I think that there's stuff to still come out. I think you guys are going down the right road. I've quietly been watching, waiting for more to drop. I can tell you, for me, the location information and the pattern of life, it hasn't come out because I don't think they ever looked at it. And it is by far the most telling of what we have out there. By the way, the day after this, he turns the phone off again. So, again, they're trying to show these patterns, and they do a pretty good job of showing, hey, prior to the murders, he turns his phone off on this days, but it's like they just stopped on November 13th. And as an investigator who's looking at a lot of crimes like this, I want to see what he's doing the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next month. Like, that is a really critical period, too, that we see very defined behaviors of suspects like this. And the very next day, he heads to Moscow, he turns his phone off, he turns it back on, and he's southbound on I-95. It's almost a mirror of what you saw the day before.
The Barnard said that they found a config file that they had to reproduce, and luckily they had the exact same phone. But basically, he went through a pattern. He turned off the Wi-Fi. Then I'm gonna mess this up, but he turned off the Wi-Fi, like airplane mode. Then put VPN, and then put VPN to only establish connections after start. And he did this whole thing, and that was brand new. He hadn't done that in the config files. That was the first time he did it, and they were going to bring that forward to say that this is a new behavior, just same thing that you're saying, a new behavior that he did before and after, and he doesn't do it again. He stops coming back to the Moscow area after the murders. He doesn't go back there anymore. So anyone who thinks he's over there just shopping, they're like, and I guess the message really is to the world is you can't commit these crimes anymore and get away with it. And that's really what I'm trying to say is I just learned recently with the labs I'm working with, I can't say this on regular TV, rapes are getting very, very rare. People don't get away with rape anymore because there's the fluid exchange, and that's leading.
He spoke about this.
To learn.
He spoke about this on the last interview, right?
Yes, briefly. I didn't see the whole thing, but yes, he did. He talked about that. Yes, with drunk turkey. Correct.
Yeah. But remember now, if the defense was going to use this, right, it's kind of like a technical gap, right? Because there's data that lacks context. So, firstly, you can't prove who is actually sitting at the keyboard, right? You can't even prove how long any page stayed open. You can't prove if it was clicked by accident.
Or someone else using your computer.
Yeah. They could say the data is circumstantial.
It goes to the issue
to damage his character than proving any actual involvement in the crime, right?
Yeah. So as a judge, you would think that this kind of information is more prejudicial than it is probative. So in order to admit evidence, especially on something like this, that really doesn't go to the issue of did he commit the crimes, or maybe it lends itself, but it's more prejudicial to a jury. It would be more prejudicial to BK to have that admitted into evidence then it's not. And what does it really prove? Now, it's different if you're talking about someone's blood being at the scene, or his computer being at the scene. That's different, because that puts the probative value of demonstrating to a jury that it has a more probative value at that point than it does someone's search history. Could be relevant, but it's
just
much more
wondering,
prejudicial.
like, I want to ask you something. So, like, these digital forensic investigators, right? I think it was Cellbrite. They only received fragmented autofill logs, and these logs showed specific words that were typed into the search engine. Not, it wasn't an active web page view, right? So, wouldn't the defense team say that these topics were related to his research?
Yeah.
That's the one thing. And also, if they say that, remember that the prosecutor said there was absolutely no evidence of any essay at the crime scene. So
It's not
didn't
relevant.
they say that?
Yeah, so it's not relevant. What
So how
they're
are they going to say
talking
it
about.
was consuming this as a motive? A motive for what?
Well, I think they're trying to establish. Again, I'll refocus you. This is about the civil lawsuit to me, right?
Mhm.
But to address your question, how Judge Hippler this would be determined at a motion in limine. So before trial, you try and weed out what evidence is going to be allowed in while you're opposing it. So the defense would file a motion in limine to remove any discussions or evidence related to these searches. That's how it would be handled. And you're right, and it's not more probative. It's irrelevant, especially when the prosecution said SA had nothing to do with it. So what are you trying to do? Demonize him? Again, demonizing someone for what? That's not part of it has nothing to do with the actual crimes, because Thompson said they didn't have a motive. There wasn't a motive. So yeah, all this that's how it would be handled. But in the civil context, it's much different. Again, those arguments would happen, but in the civil context, it's much different, because the search history would be something that isn't monitored by WSU or not. So that's why I want to refocus everyone. This has nothing to really do with the criminal case. This
No.
is Cy and Steve G putting pressure on WSU. If you don't settle this case soon and pay my nonprofit organization, we're going to continue, and Cy is going to be my expert. That's what I'm reading into it, and Alivea adding to it as well. So whatever they've uncovered, and that's information that's not been public either, is the discovery in the WSU lawsuit. So that's something within Steve G's wheelhouse. But this is all to do with the WSU lawsuit, in my opinion.
I think so. Let's watch.
Do this, I'm going to get caught. And we need that same message in these murder cases. And I don't know how to say that in a mainstream media format, but we got to, I'm trying to
tank your podcast, Bryan Entin.
What'd you say, Olivia?
So we're just going to tank your podcast instead. My apologies.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So on that,
Okay.
Steve and Olivia, let me give you a name. Follow this case. I think it's really, really important. The name is Matthew Nilo, Nilo. So Nilo.
Okay.
Matthew is an attorney who was practicing in New York, but he went to law school in Boston. And in the early 2000s, when he was in law school in Boston, he was a serial rapist. And I want to say he had 7 victims that they've identified.
Oh, wow.
About 2 years ago, maybe 3. Man, time is flying right now. I would maybe a little bit longer. Just after these murders, they did the exact same thing. It's the exact same team with IgG, and they took some of the DNA from one of those rapes. They ran it through IgG, and like I said, it's the same team that worked on the Kohberger case, and they got a hit on Nilo. And they went and did the 1-to-1 comparison. They got it. They arrested him in New York. That case is working its way through Massachusetts right now. He's going to challenge the IGG, and he's going to win. The thing I want you guys focused on, because this is probably one of the more infuriating things. And if somebody's over, I'll shut up. But if they haven't, they are doing a huge disservice to all of the victims' families right now by not giving you guys the lay of the land. The defense is going to buy all the time they can until one of these IGG cases hits a major appeals case or the U.S. Supreme Court. When it does, you can kind of mark my words here. The rule is going to become you have to have a search warrant for IGG. You just have to. Most states have already started to adopt it, but this Nilo case is really likely. He's got the
we could agree on
funding and the knowledge to take this to the Supreme Court. If that happens, and they actually look at, hey, when you sidestep the search warrant and you step outside of policy, IGG is out. If that ever happens, that is Bryan's gold card right there. And I think that the defense, they're watching this case very carefully. They're waiting to see what happens with this. And everything you guys are going to see the next year or two is nothing more than buying time.
But would that even matter if he pled guilty? I mean, it's not like he had a trial and then was found guilty, and then he could go back and say, oh, the evidence they used at trial against me, is unfair. Like he still pled guilty. And that had nothing to do with the IGG.
So here's the issue.
Bryan Entin needs to wake up.
And again,
you see how dumb he is.
Yeah. Well, they got the probable cause derived from it, and that's why it's material. So assuming nothing happens, which I don't, I believe this case is going to, the plea is going to get vacated. But even if it existed further and stayed on the books, I believe the Supreme Court would rule exactly what Cyray's talking about. And we talked about that before on the show, that there would become a Supreme Court issue. And if that happens and IGG would require a search warrant, then they would not have developed probable cause. And so it allows this whole issue would come back and be argued on whether it was material to BK being identified and the probable cause. And so you would remove fruit of the poisonous tree. You basically remove all the evidence that was derived from that illegal search from the IGG. So the case, in my opinion, would have a lot of defects and would be reset. And he would walk at that point if it went through this whole process, which I think it's gonna get resolved with the recusal of Judge Hippler, in my opinion, it's got to happen soon, and it has to happen first. You can't amend a pleading. So anyone thinking you're going to amend the pleading first, meaning the petition for post-conviction relief, without recusing Judge Hippler, it's waived at that point. So anyone who has that thought in their mind is doing a disservice to BK, unless you believe Judge Hippler doesn't have a conflict, and then go ahead.
Yeah,
well, I don't think anyone thinks Judge Hippler is not conflicted when he took the plea while sitting as also the presiding judge over Leaks investigation and knowing that he was pushing a plea deal. So he has a lot of conflict. So anyway, didn't mean to sidetrack.
No. Good. Let's go on.
Do it right. 10 times out of 10, he gets convicted and maybe more comes out and it really does put some closure behind this thing. Bring back the death penalty. I am all for this. But I think that I don't agree with the national populace right now that his appeal doesn't have legs, and it's very unlikely it's going to happen. I think there's a couple things that if it falls into place just right, it could happen. So I just say that as prepare yourself, right?
I've talked to some crazy labs, and so there's some multi-billionaire, okay, his house got broken into, somebody stole his safe, didn't just take it, they didn't just break into it, they took it. And long story short, a cigar was left behind. This guy hires a private lab to get a snip off of it, and then uploads it to all and goes and finds the person who robs his house and shot his dog, which is like, it's like a movie, okay? And he gives it to the cops as a tip. And they said, the court, he basically arrested this guy and kind of is taking shit over it because he was supposed to handle it himself. So, long story short, he starts his own company. And he's just going through certain locations that he's deemed as high risk. And they're just grabbing people's DNA and uploading it as if they own it. But once you abandon your DNA, you don't own it. So then they're making these databases to sell to the freaking cops. It's an I'm going to say he's criminal, and this is a weird story, but I really don't know he was or not, or he was just a shady business guy. But he found a niche, and he's going in there because the database, CODIS is puny. There's almost nobody in it. So they need to get to these bigger ones. And he found this niche. And
the back door.
like,
That's where this is all illegal.
This guy,
he's basically admitting
we feel like this is
everything
going to get
we're
shut
talking
down.
about.
But this is the stuff that's going on, Steve. This is the
Sorry.
wow.
You're saying that's what you were saying they went in the back door.
Well, they have a back door of getting information, right? And let's face it, it's the feds. It's not the states who are doing this. It's the feds, and they already I fingered BK, and that's being held back. That's why this tip, how Steve G refers to as a tip, and that's which allows the state then to run and create their so-called independent probable cause. That's how the feds avoid a dual sovereign issue, or at least one in which the feds are using the state as a proxy to basically proceed as the front for their case. The law allows, if the state finds independent probable cause through a tip given by the feds, that's fine, because independent sovereigns could have their own proceedings and charges, so that's fine. It's when the state is being used as a proxy for the feds that it's a problem and a violation of the Fourth and Fifth Amendment. That's where the problem arises, and that's what we see here. But we also see violations of different standards. So backdoors, just like confidential informants, human resource, it depends. But normally they have warts. And the federal government has a history of using compromised individuals to get information from others, or identifying or placing them in a compromising position. I think we could all agree we've seen that played out in numerous different cases or operations. So they're using the same concept, the same MO. And that is they use or they assist a company to develop technology in which they know they would be the benefactor of until they get caught. Until they get caught, the feds will be the benefactor of all that information, right? And then once they're caught, the Supreme Court simply smacks their hand and says, you can't do this, but it would be legal if you do this, meaning a search warrant, which we already know should be the default.
Yeah.
But until they get caught, that's what happens.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yes,
Wild west of IGG.
What were you going to say, Olivia? Were you going to say something?
Yeah. So I guess that I just don't follow the logic completely that this is not an appeal. This is a post-conviction relief. The relief that he's asking for is for his guilty plea to be removed. Let's say that it's all granted. That essentially puts him back on the trial court. Let's say that they successfully delay until the Supreme Court decision in which it is deemed to be unconstitutional for the IGG process. We're assuming that that's going to be then done retroactively, then apply to this case. Let's assume that happens. Let's assume that IGG gets removed. It doesn't change his DNA being a direct match to the DNA on the sheath. So I guess I'm not following.
That's an issue as well. Of course it is.
Things happening. And I know you said that they're unlikely. You were like, if these things all fall together. But I'm not following how these things all fall together to then have the IGG removed, which then puts us in a position where the case is at risk considering the DNA is a match. So maybe the work was ethically budged but the work itself is good.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple things on that.
Which it's not. It's not good. What does she mean that?
Is
What?
Carpenter
Sorry.
versus
Go on,
US.
Begamish.
And what Carpenter is, it's a bank robbery case, so obviously not anything of the nature of what we're talking about.
Sorry about that.
Just it's not okay because she's missing the whole point. The amplification, the AI algorithm is not known to anybody. And you amplify something from 10 cells to whatever it was, 28,000, whatever it was, a mountain of evidence, what Middleman said. But it's the amplification process. No one knows what the standards are being used and who the analyst is of amplifying it. Maybe they have a bias. All these have to be determined. And that's why, I don't know if Cyray gets into it, but that could also be relevant in the eventual Supreme Court case, saying third-party vendors, and I don't know if it's an issue yet. In order for the Supreme Court to rule, it has to be kind of an issue, right? So one is just IGG in general saying you need search warrants. But then the other aspect is, what about IGG being used and the underlying algorithms are not provided to defense counsel or the analyst amplifying it, their background, their expertise, whatever the qualifications are, and the reliability testing of Othram itself has to be reviewed, right? So that's another aspect of whether the Supreme Court, and if that's an issue, would render an opinion that that type of information and qualifications and background, the raw data basically, right, the back door, is going to be provided to the defense counsel, or are they going to allow that the means and methods, the sources, remain confidential? So all this is coming to a head. And the reason I raise it is Othram is going to make billions of dollars. Think about how expensive it is. And they have a monopoly on it. Think how much we realize now. I'm just saying in general, I say we because let's face it, the amount of money spent to defend a case, all right, not everyone has that ability, not at all. And so how many people, if you allow IGG to be used in this context, the slippery slope is that at some point, not at some point, it creates an undue burden, an undue financial burden on a defendant, right? And you have to look at the defendant as a common person. That reasonable common person, do they have the ability to spend millions? No. So is the process flawed? When does financing become a due process issue that stops the feds from using technology to their advantage to prosecute wrongfully at that? But when does financing become an issue? I say and submit that it is an issue, and that in itself has to be addressed by the Supreme Court at some point. I'm going down far afield on something, but think about how many people could afford challenging even Othram on IGG if they had to pay for it out of pocket. Would you do it, or you would accept a plea? Would you risk putting your house, get mortgaged, even if you had that ability? Many people don't have that type of equity. And even if they did, you're being compromised in accepting a plea because you don't want to lose that money or put your family at risk. So you take, the lesser of two evils, even though you had nothing to do with it. This is the most, this is what I find so disgusting. When you hear about, look how much money the state of Idaho had to spend in defending Bryan Kohberger. Well, leave Bryan Kohberger aside from it. The amount of money that one defense used, how much money did the feds use to use all this technology? And that imbalance of resources, again, it's a standard, it's an imbalance. It's a huge imbalance. It's not even close to the average person.
Yeah.
So these technologies in my opinion, have to be reevaluated in when they can be used at all in trials, because it places a defendant in an unreasonable position to defend themselves. And to me, that is unconstitutional.
Yeah, it is.
Again, sorry, I went far afield on a.
So I saw a question. No, please don't. We learn a lot from you. So somebody asked. Also, yeah. Let me just see. Oh yeah, why was all this necessary to prove an open and shut case? Yeah, true. Big money.
Yeah, it's big money. Yeah, and they it puts you in a compromising position, especially if you have a judge that's going to allow. I'm not saying everybody, if the judge was going to allow everything in, let's say even 90% in, and basically say to you, okay, I'm going to allow it in, but here's where the fairness is. I'm going to allow you to cross-examine, but they limit what you could cross-examine. They're not going to show you what's really behind the curtain anyway. That again is not fair or due process, in my opinion. But that's basically what Hitler was doing. Is saying, I'm going to, in my opinion, that's where it was going to go, and why BK didn't didn't have a fair chance to defend himself.
Yeah.
He would be exposed to that death penalty and probably be, the victim of that new firing squad that they oiled up and got ready. Oh,
Just for him.
just for him. Yeah,
That's what they want. That's what
Yeah.
they want. You just can go look it up. That it will tell
Yeah.
you they built it for him.
and the governor could push BK. There could be death row. I don't know how many people were in death row. Not that there is a death row, but I don't know how many people were in death row in the state of Idaho. But let's assume there were 10 people, right? And usually there's a long process to get people, executed under that. But the governor has the ability to put you in front of the line. So let's say there were 10, maybe there were 5, maybe there were 3. Regardless, it still would take time before you would get to BK potentially. But the governor has the ability to move you from last in line right to the front. Now, it will raise more issues, legal issues, but the governor does have the power to do that, or move everyone on death row, and there would be lawsuits filed, but he could push it because you could argue the exhaustion of your rights and appeals on for the death penalty have been exhausted, but the governor has that ability to do that, and that's scary as well. And we know he fired up the rifle squad just for BK. That is 100% true.
Yeah, Kenny said, why didn't they do that for the day bells? That's what I've been saying when I talk about this, and people wish prison justice and execution for Bryan.
Yeah,
You don't see people carrying on with Chad Daybell when he was sentenced, and I mean they actually found him guilty. They had proof, real proof. People aren't calling, okay, put him in the firing squad. They didn't build the firing squad for him.
Yeah. No, they didn't. Oh, no, absolutely. And this is why
Tony, look, the firing squad is pretty bad. I don't want to modernize any form of capital punishment. Look, everyone's got their own opinion on that. I don't like it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and think about, and I want you to comment on this, Wendy. Think about if you have emotional issues, right? If you have disabilities, psychiatric or emotional, how that would impact, and is the death penalty fair under those circumstances? Would you want to see?
I would say for the just like I'm not for the death penalty, but when you talk about Chad Daybell and what he did to those 2 kids and the whole family, yeah, maybe then I do say in that case
there's always exceptions, and that's what you're saying. You could be general. Your position is
there was no doubt on that case that they did what they did. It wasn't. They didn't use any weird ways of finding them or anything like that. No.
No, but that's where the state of Idaho was going. Where do they draw the line? And again, it's making law, and again, and in regards to autism, where in the spectrum is it okay to basically kill somebody if you have autism? When is it okay to do that? When is it not? I mean, this is do they understand, comprehend what that is that's happening to them? And is it fair to do that to somebody knowing they have these limitations? Is it fair to carry out the death penalty on individuals, specific type of individuals? But this is where you carve out areas of law. This is what's called as common law as well, where each, state decisions regarding the death penalty under individuals with certain emotional or psychiatric issues is defined. Every case is different. But clearly they were looking to do that. But I don't know. I really, knowing at least some of the information that's been released in the case regarding BK's autistic issues, would it really have been carried out? I don't know. But I certainly don't want to let it in the hands of Judge Hippler and the state. Yeah.
No, definitely not.
I have no trust in that based on what we've seen. Absolutely not. So.
No, that's true. Let's look. I've got about 30 minutes left. Let me just let's play.
Right here, but in Carpenter, they do a
That's a Supreme Court case.
Yeah, sorry guys, I don't want to cut you off because I'm in a different time zone. I'm my granddaughter's sleeping over tonight, so
Wendy's gonna have a great time with the family. That's important. Always
yeah,
always.
I have to. Yeah, it's a different. I'm like 6 hours ahead of you if you're in Eastern time, so.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We all understand, and I know it kept you longer. But Steve G just mentioned Carpenter, which is a case regarding the right of privacy and discarding. Let's see what he's.
Yeah. And just I saw on this. I just wanted to say, Kelly, you're right. I mean, that child of Daybell, I mean, that poor kid, that was heartbreaking what they did. So, I mean, I watched that trial. So why didn't they build a firing squad for him? Why just for Bryan? That's my question always.
You're right. Equal application of the law. At least if you're pursuing the law, the prosecution should show fairness and show equal application. They never did that in that case. So you're right.
All right. Okay.
Cell phone records, and they're able to place Carpenter at the scene of this bank robbery using cell phone records. But it's the FBI. And, in 2017, well, actually, the ruling's in 2017. The case actually happens about 2010, 2011. The FBI gets involved, and instead of using a search warrant to get the phone records, they use basically what they call an admin subpoena, which is a supervisor at the FBI saying, hey, this is relevant to a criminal investigation, give us the stuff. So Verizon gives them the records, and they put him at the crime scene. They recover some evidence based on the phone records. He goes to prison. It goes on. He finally gets his appeal. It goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and this was the first case in the United States that challenged, can law enforcement look at your location data without a search warrant?
Geo warrants?
Yeah, and basically the Supreme Court said no. Looking into your location data is so personal, it requires a search warrant. And this was the landmark case for cell site location information that requires law enforcement. And now everybody except for the FBI was getting search warrants for a decade before this because we all knew where this was going. But the FBI was doing it at that point.
So how did he have a claim?
So it reversed. It reversed the conviction. Because the conviction was based on the phone records and the Supreme Court said, hey, you should have had a probable cause search warrant, and you didn't, the phone records went away. So they had to retry Carpenter and prove the case without the phone records, which luckily they had a ton of evidence and they were able to do. So that's the first one is, should law enforcement have reasonably obtained a search warrant? And this is my hang up on the Kohberger case. And the answer is so simple. If law enforcement would have written a search warrant for what they were doing with IGG, it doesn't hurt anything. We can seal search warrants. I don't have to release it. I'm going to go back to my undercover days. We did a lot of cartel cases. I was a cop in Arizona, so we had a lot of cartel cases on the border. We used to steal cars to wire them with GPS because we needed to get access on the car to get our GPS in the right. So we would literally order the key from the manufacturer, and we would go steal cartel members' cars, and then we would plant the GPS in it, and then we'd recover it and give it back to them. It's a great scam. We wrote search warrants to ourselves so that we documented what we were doing, and there was transparency with legal oversight on our actions. When we allow the FBI to go through back doors and to kind of trick the system, and if you ask, why didn't you write a search warrant to GED, match GED? Well, we didn't write the search warrant because they wouldn't have given us the info.
I think it was Heritage.
Parallel proceedings.
It was
that's why it's so critical to understand what's happening.
So the idea there is, man, if they reverse that, and then you get Steve Nye.
You were saying big homage. Sorry about that.
No, parallel proceedings. That's exactly what he's saying. The feds would not provide the information if you went and got a state search warrant. See, the state couldn't get a search warrant because the feds wouldn't give them the information to satisfy the warrant requirement.
Yeah. Wow.
And they weren't going to do it from the Fed side because if that also, and we don't know, they probably have done it, but again, it's being concealed because of the separate sovereigns doctrine and what they have and what they might want to pursue.
Yeah.
But they require the state to independently determine probable cause. And that's the concern, because if you expose the federal involvement, the case breaks apart. The game is over at that point.
But why we said that they didn't go and arrest him themselves. They couldn't.
Well, yeah, the search warrant. Yes, directly, and you see a lot of times the feds do go out and get a search warrant. Arrest warrant, and do that, but they didn't. They did not want to be the front. Why didn't the feds just charge them? So there's a larger, to me, there's a larger operation, more sealed indictments. Like we talked about before, there were 71 federal grand jury subpoenas. That's not just for Bryan Kohberger.
No, of course.
So they're by definition, it's, but we don't find out about those other perpetrators. Just like male B and D, the DNA testing or the hairs. The feds could have that all information. They could have all that information and can tell you, but that was never provided to the states, right? The state prosecution. They created that firewall.
Sure.
Okay.
And you talk about somebody who should not have been involved with this case. If you guys haven't seen his, you know who Steve is? Jeffrey. Jeffrey.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did an interview in August with Fox News. You guys have to go watch this interview, and he explains
I think he actually told this in purpose because Christy Dawn asked him, "What do you worry about?" And he said the same thing.
Who?
And yeah. I've worried about it's not so much him explaining, because I agree with him. The entire case was hinged on the IGG. It's what he says towards the end when he says, and usually with these type of things, we can argue inevitable discovery. And what inevitable discovery is the Carpenter case. Yeah, we have these phone records and it helped put the case together, but take the phone records out, inevitably we still would have discovered all this stuff and we could prove the case. And that's why Carpenter is still in prison today, even though those records got thrown out.
Inevitably is like independently.
First, and they found the right tree. They were on the wrong branch. And Leah Larkin herself testified in the Franks hearing that eventually it would have led to him.
100%. 100%. The problem is Jeffrey Nye on Fox TV during that interview said, we didn't even argue inevitable discovery because there was nothing that applied for it. And I'm like, dude, shut up. What are you saying? More importantly than even what Othram found, we have to remember on November 29th, Washington State University identified Bryan Kohberger and the vehicle, realized that he just swapped his plates for Washington plates, and notified Moscow PD. The idea that Bryan Kohberger would have been completely absent of this investigation minus IGG is absurd. All they had to do was follow up on credible leads. That's it. That's all they had to do.
Okay.
But
Okay.
they didn't.
Okay. So yeah, I think that we're on the same page.
And I'm not saying I ever think this thing gets reversed. What I'm saying is, if you guys, as the victims in the case, in all of the victims' families, if you're not being told, hey, this could be 5, 6, 8, 10 years before this thing works itself out in the criminal justice system, you're being misled. The Carpenter case, well, that was a 2011 arrest. That case came down in 2018. And that's just the appeals process. That's not even the initial case. So I think we're in for a very long ride on this. I think there's a lot of things that are going to still happen. I don't know that he's going to get his post-conviction relief. I think they're anticipating that. All that does is now it forces it into an appellate review. And it's the appellate review that I worry about.
Do you think that'll...
I guess I'm not understanding that point either. How does a post-conviction relief force it to an appellate court? Because he won't even get a hearing. His argument is nothing but ineffective counsel, which was asked in the plea questionnaire that he answered extensively to, as well as life in prison isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I was quote unquote threatened by the idea of death row. There's no other meat.
Hair in Ethan's hand.
Oh, okay, yeah. Clumps of hair, which we know is completely fabricated. That's not reality. And his own defense, Ruth Ballard, testified on the 23rd of January that it was consistent with Ethan's own hair. So he can't say that that's exculpatory because obviously the prosecution didn't withhold that from them.
They didn't test the other hairs.
That doesn't work out either. So I guess I'm not understanding from how we get to, he's not even going to get a hearing. Mark my words. Let's say that I'm wrong. He gets a hearing. How does that throw it into an appellate? When he's not asking for his plea waiver to be removed. He's asking for his guilty plea to be removed.
He's not a lawyer, yeah.
I'm sorry.
He's an officer trying to help.
What?
If you don't know.
No, I get it. I would be so frustrated. In fact, I would be like, just please release the guy. The only thing I ask.
That's why they won't talk to us.
That's how I feel. Just release. Let's just release him.
Yeah, they won't talk to us because these are the kind of questions that we give to Thompson, and Thompson just. His eyes start darting.
I don't think that it's not an unfair question, like you said. This guy has the answer. But that's what Olivia's asking is really the question. I mean,
here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. The post-conviction relief that he's seeking right now is going to go before Hitler, and I agree with you 100%, Olivia. He's going to turn it down. He's not even going to get a hearing. He can appeal that. This is where Garza versus Idaho comes in. He can say, "Hey, Hitler's already jaded on this. He's part of the problem. I need to side of that initial team to look at this." It's a long road. They're going to have to file their stuff just right. At some point, he's going to have to get a real attorney to get on board. All I'm saying is if nobody's telling you guys that this is possible, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's possible, that they're not prepping you guys. The same thing about, hey, if we take this plea deal, we can bring closure to this case. No, it just
exactly that. They told us the opposite. They said, if you guys go with Steve and go for the death penalty, you're going to have hell to pay. But if you just go with old Thompson over here, all your problems go away, and he pleads to it, and you all just go right into the sunset. And now they're all like, I didn't think he could appeal.
Hashing old news.
What's that?
Hashing old news.
Well,
That's Dad.
we're still talking to people that are calling me. Like I just had Brandon. He couldn't appeal. And we're like,
well, because it's not an appeal. It's post-conviction relief, and it's going to be denied. Because here's the thing. He could have requested relief in the form of having his plea waiver removed, which would have been a hell of a lot more likely for a judge to say, yeah, sure, whatever, have your appeals back. But he didn't do that. He asked for his guilty plea removed, which logically makes no sense, which is why I think Ann Taylor's not behind this at all.
I read something that Ann Taylor signed an affidavit today.
It can't be.
Wait.
Wait.
They're trying to buy more time.
What did Christy say? Could you repeat that? Or just, did she say, Christy, what Christy said, could you go back? Did she say Ann Taylor signed an affidavit? Which, is that what you heard as well? Or is it just me?
I'm going to go back.
It was like 10 seconds. And, for Olivia to say that the hair, they tested the hair. They didn't test they tested a hair and found it wasn't Bryan's. they didn't tell you whose hair it was or whether there were, and how many other individuals' hair there were in there, which would suggest other perpetrators. But also, just as a fairness issue, wouldn't you want your justice system, your law enforcement, to go through the evidence to ensure that what other individuals may have been involved are also brought to justice, rather than just isolating your case so you maintain it against Bryan Kohberger and Bryan Kohberger alone? So
Absolutely.
that's the problem I have.
Let me play that again.
Like, I didn't think he could appeal.
Hashing old news.
What's that?
Hashing old news.
Well,
That's dad.
we're still talking to people that are calling me. Like I just had Brand. He couldn't appeal, and we're like,
Well, because it's
That
not
makes
an appeal. It's post-conviction relief, and it's going to be denied. Because here's the thing. He could have requested relief in the form of having his plea waiver removed, which would have been a hell of a lot more likely for a judge to say, yeah, sure, whatever, have your appeals back. But he didn't do that. He asked for his guilty plea removed, which logically makes no sense, which is why I think Ann Taylor's not behind this at all.
I read something that Ann Taylor signed an affidavit today.
Asking for the relief that he's asking for isn't asking
Wow.
trying to buy more time. Give him a route to appeals.
See, there. If that's true, it follows exactly what I laid out. Ann Taylor would be filing an affidavit. So then Gregory Rausch could use it to support, not, again, I don't think, amending the plea is one thing, but I think you have to get the recusal. But if Ann Taylor provided that affidavit, I'm sure it is very, very lengthy and detailed, documenting everything that we talked about and in my videos of the impact the rulings had, which by themselves is not enough. But then you had the 68 terabyte dump, unindexed, all that, and the effect on defense counsel and the defense team being able to prepare for trial. So I don't know where Christy came out with that. She said she just found out today, or when this video came out. That's that'll be interesting to know when that's coming out, if at all. Not yet, but I do believe it's coming. I just never heard of it before that it was filed. Interesting.
Wow.
Very, very interesting.
Interesting. It's also interesting, just going back quickly off topic here. Did you guys know, like, a word that sounds like baby talk? Yaya actually means like grandmother. So when he uses that word, a father might use a word like that sounds almost like baby talk to mask inappropriate behavior. So yeah, they like talking about inappropriate behavior, but I found that term very interesting.
Yes, interesting. Yeah.
Say, just remove my plea, or just remove my appeals waiver. But you're trying to remove your guilty plea, which is never going to happen because of the questionnaire that Hitler gave him. It was incredibly extensive, and everything that he brings up in his motion was covered. So
he has no choice.
Amnesia, and unless he truly is just even more stupid than I thought that he was, and I truly thought that this man was stupid, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
It's
understand
like a toddler throwing a tantrum.
them turning down this first motion for the post-conviction relief is another log on the fire for the bigger appeal issue. We're not done with these motions being filed. I think in the next 60 to 90 days, like I'm saying, we're going to see a lot more start coming out of the woodwork. This is just step one to get that. There is a very
That's step one.
there is a very intricate, very well planned out road that the defense is going to go down here. We're just getting started.
yeah, the minute they thought they were going to do a plea, they probably had a whole exit strategy to be like, this is what we're going to do. And they sold that to him.
Of course.
So he's not selling out Ann right now. Ann's part of this.
And me, this is just total,
You can just talk.
just
Side's
spitballing.
theory.
We're
That's
spitballing.
side's theory.
Yeah, we're just spitballing right here.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, honestly. I'm like, how do we know that she's not in on this? Say, hey, we're going to do this. Then after a few months, you're going to file, inadequate.
Ineffective.
Ineffective
Or
counsel.
just an attorney saying, yes, I was ineffective. Like you're looking at motions. You're looking at the evidence that was, attempted to be suppressed. You're looking at, there's so much more that goes into it than just an attorney being like, yeah,
she's essentially going to lay down on the knife, right?
I'm still stuck on what Cy started this whole conversation with, and Christy wasn't here, but that if they had done more digging and processing with the digital stuff, that Cy believes that there's evidence that Kohberger was in the living room at King Road based on the data. Did you guys know that? Did I just miss that somewhere?
I knew he was following these girls and stalking them online, but they refused.
So that's new evidence.
What?
If there was.
So he knew that he was stalking them.
How does he know that when we were told 100% that was not what was happening?
Yeah. Thompson said that, made it clear. So Steve G's raising some information, like where is he getting his information from? Is it coming from the feds? Again, that would violate BK's rights. Cy Ray's saying he's seen it. He didn't tell us when, I believe, so that also raises issues regarding violating BK's rights. Any way you look at it, it provides a basis to vacate the plea. It supports the PCR relief BK's requesting. That's how I'm looking at it.
It's just strange that he brings this up at all.
Yes, it is very, very strange, 100%. But all I could tell you is it has a dual purpose. It has a dual purpose, in my opinion.
Sorry about that. Let me just click play here. But you're right, Big Amish, it does. It just seems too obvious that he's saying things like that.
Puts it out.
An online connection. There's.
Are we talking about that night? That night he was in the living room?
No, Cy thinks previous based on the data that he has from the defense.
So terrifying.
Now because we just skirted on past it.
Sorry, I've been thinking about that.
No. You're right.
I'm like, I missed that somewhere, and you guys secretly knew, or I didn't.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit off script here too, and I could be wrong. And this is where I was asking about the VICAP report and all the questions to family and friends, which I can't find any reporting being done. The little bit that I have dug into, I also believe it's possible that Bryan Kohberger could have been at that house at certain times and not necessarily even been noticed. I think he could have blended in very easy. A large group of guys specifically, but a large group of college kids hanging out around the house may not have triggered what everybody thinks necessarily. I'm not saying that there's evidence of him breaking in the middle of the night and snooping around the house. I believe there's evidence of him late at night being at, near, or in the house, but it's also at high traffic times in that general area. And I believe he could have blended in really easy. The other thing I'm going to throw back to Steve that is just mind-numbing to me is there is a pattern of him looking at multiple houses. I believe he's a serial killer. I believe that was the intent here, was he was going to start his serial killer spree, if you will. And one thing you have to understand about the psychology is part of what...
Not you two. Oh my God, this guy's crazy.
An unaliving spree. Oh, wow. I don't know what else to make out of it. Now he's a serial unaliver. Okay, going on a spree of unalivings.
Oh wow!
The whole
I'm laughing at the chat as well, Big Amish. You see.
Oh,
Lucy, Linda, what have you? Oh wow! Yeah, Scully. Where's the cam BK looking at the houses, bitch?
You're right, Skull.
Oh wow. Yeah, Tony, you're right. How does he blend in? I thought he's socially awkward. With that
maybe
gay.
he had his translucent balaclava on. So,
Well, you know, we all know, we've heard he likes to streak with his butt cheeks open. So
that's right. It's
that
all,
that'll get you a lot of attention on a college night party, I'm sure.
maybe he lets loose after a few White Claws that they had.
What are
Maybe
white
that's what
claws? I've heard about that.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never had one, but yeah, I've just from the it was in I forgot whose backpack that was.
See, Big Army says, I've never had one, but he does know about it.
Maybe I'll try one someday. But all of this just
Well, we'll try a lot of stuff after this case.
yeah, yes, the
White
soul,
claws,
the soul.
Zol. Oh, wow. Oh, Scully, did you send a video? Let me just see what you sent. I'm going to save these videos, Scully. I'm going to keep it. Oh, okay. Oh, it's like a little cartoon one. I've got it. All right, let's play. Oh, wow.
What drives them, part of what fuels what they're doing, is the randomness of selecting victims, watching victims and thinking in their head what they could do. But that is a huge piece of serial killers. And I think he had multiple targets throughout the entire Moscow, Poland area. And when you look at his phone at night, that's what he's doing. He is going around hitting these different houses, watching people, interacting with them potentially. I cannot find any history where somebody's taken the phone records and mapped out all these locations and then gone to law enforcement reporting to say, hey, what reports of a prowler, suspicious person, stalking type behavior, like just give us all the calls for service in these different areas and see, can we match up? Hey, he keeps going back to this other house on the northeastern side of Moscow. Oh, weird. The neighbor across the street has called in 3 times about a white car. Like, how does that change this investigation dramatically? And these are some of those things that I keep saying are just completely absent from this investigation. And the only reason I'm saying all of this part, Olivia, is I want him to get the appeal. I say, let's bring it on, get a new trial, but let's do it right. Let's get the right investigators involved, and let's go show the world just how depraved this guy was. Let's bring back the death penalty, make it happen. I worry
make it happen.
We don't do that, and they fall back on this. Well, he's not going to get the appeal. We're not worried about it. Oh crap! He made the first hurdle. He's not going to make the second hurdle. We're okay. We're okay. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a position 5 or 6 years from now that there is a real possibility of a new trial, and they haven't done anything to patch the holes from the first round. And that's where I've been very vocal with anybody who will listen. The time is now to start this investigation over, to do it, just document it, get it done. It's not a crazy expense. I mean, we've done everything at our own expense. I probably have about 50,000 invested in my Kohberger nonsense at this point. Like, there's people like myself and other people and stuff that you guys are doing that you can do this the right way. I think it's all about getting a mental mindset of where this thing can go, being very real and truthful with the victims' families to explain, hey, here's a number of scenarios. And even if it's a 1% chance, it's something that we need to discuss. And hey, how do you combat this? If lightning strikes twice here, how do we make sure this guy never walks? Because that, at the end of the day, is the real goal here. This is why I've been so outspoken, is we can never allow somebody like this to walk, especially
four murders. The FBI told me, they looked at me like, Steve, I know you're concerned, but do you think somebody with 4 murders is going to walk? We have to do everything perfectly. And it was crazy that when you told me that you felt like there was more mistakes on that side, I was just like, and that was the side I was almost going with. If the other families would have told me, kick Kaylee out and you guys go do your own thing, I would have. But they were like, no, we want you to be the loudmouth and pretend like we don't like you. But the truth is,
no, you don't have to pretend we don't like you.
Trouble, because now we're going to get our heads out of the sand,
So you think it was just?
Make sure I hit your points there.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Christy?
So you don't think it was just, sometimes I think that people just put too much thought into it. And I think, look, he happened to spot one of the girls at some point in time. He started following them to their house, started watching them, found out that it was, a house full of girls, perfect for him, score, everything that he was, really needing and wanting. And he, started planning on, murder. And, obviously had his knife and whatnot. And finally that night, he just pulled the trigger and went in. I mean, like
What?
I don't understand why
that happens every day.
it's so elaborate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, because that house is a dead end road surrounded by other houses. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Mom.
What did I tell you, Big Amish? The dead end house. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go into that a bit more.
Good. That's a good point as well. Yeah, you pick. Just her statements alone on it's like, oh, he pulled the trigger, just went in and committed unalivings in rapid succession.
Should really, really be careful with their wording.
Yes.
Scully.
He decided back before he ever moved to Washington that he was going to kill someone. He decided way back when that he was going to kill multiple someones if he was able to continue getting away with it.
A moment of silence. The gospel according to Nancy Grace.
Nancy.
Okay. He walked into that house after 1. He didn't walk out after 4. He didn't anticipate this. He thought he'd be way better at it than he was. But part of his game is that he's a hunter. So it gave him an adrenaline boost to see them out in public, to follow them without them knowing, to do these things until that was no longer giving, that drug hit wasn't enough. Until it just kind of became this, he knew he had to do this. There was no getting out of it. He had a separate bank account with money that he had put in there that he hadn't touched, and he was broke as a joke. It's not like he had a ton of money to spare. Starts using it in cash. Fantasy 101, because at the end of the day, he's just an addict, and the drug that he's chased has always been different. First, it was health and workout and this and that, and then it was this grandiose that he's healing his autoimmune disorders because he's so smart and this and that, and it at one point it was heroin even.
What a little bitch.
She's gone.
Wow, she's like must have been the school bully. What?
Yeah. But she's just. But all these issues that are being raised, I'm going to throw something out there. I don't know if anyone's thinking like this or not, but we talked about this previously just a little regarding the gay corn stuff. Is it possible that they're going to, and I'll predict it maybe, that somehow Ethan had some sort of account? Are they gonna go there? I mean, for this issue to come up, it's not by chance, in my opinion. So they're gonna have to tie it into someone at the house eventually, or was it just this just ran off through their mouths? I don't think so.
I didn't know it was always the gay corn. I thought it was midget corn that he was.
Well, then Bryan Entin would be a suspect. He would be involved. Oh my god. Scott could make a nice video on that. Oh my god.
Big sorry's mouth there. Ready, go for it, buddy. Wow. What these? I think Olivia. Wow, she is mean.
Yes. This is wow.
Yes, Tracy, you're right. That they were. Katie was. Sorry, not shaming her, but there was that whole story online where Dylan actually didn't like her because Dylan. A lot of people said that Dylan was being bullied.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know who's, I mean, Alivea has a similar propensity, it seems, but it suggests, you know, with her father's background in business and her being able to hack, I mean, it suggests involvement here, which I'm trying to wrap my head around and understand. Why would she be able to, and why would she basically hack Kaylee's? And if she's able to do Kaylee's, did she have access to other of the victims' accounts, or even survivors for that matter, or others?
She
Just
reminds me
troubling.
of a modern day witch.
And if that's the case, you know, I'm sure Alivea must have been served a subpoena to produce or allow access to her computer, whatever she was using to access Kaylee, at least Kaylee that we know. But that is evidence. And was that ever produced to defense counsel? I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating. Did defense counsel ever ask about that? Or and probably stopped.
That's what she says.
He's an addict that has always been obsessive and addicted to something, and he became addicted to this idea of chasing this high of killing someone. It wasn't personal to him.
100%. You couldn't have said that better. 100%. I agree with you. And if he ever does walk, he will kill again.
There's the death.
No, they investigated him back in Pennsylvania. It didn't go anywhere, but they definitely were concerned.
Yeah.
They want prison justice.
Predatory behaviors until they no longer fulfilled his needs.
So I didn't get Thorn Road right, but was that close? Was that closer than Payne's little loop?
Oh, stop it.
That's terrible. It's about, if you look at where Thorn is, and the road comes down and kind of 95 doglegs around.
Okay.
Dogleg, it starts to go straight again. It's the third dirt road after that one. There's a farm that's up on 95 right there, and that's where he worked his way back up to Thorn, and then he came back down. So he goes across up to Thorn Creek and then back down around, and he actually shoots out back onto, I think it's 195.
Well, it's definitely close. And AI helped me because I was trying to pull the timestamps all together with the 448, and 448 was my source of truth.
That he was stopped there. Ray said that he was stopped there for about 10 minutes. We never anticipated that long of a gap that he was stopped there. We obviously 1 to 2 minutes. So the timeline that we had
gone farther down than he's probably needs to be.
Yeah. So it's not my fault.
From the house to where he stopped, I want to say it was like 14.5 miles. And you saw the rate of speed he was leaving the neighborhood at. I have no reason to believe he's not driving 65, 70 probably on the road. There's a solid 10 to maybe 15, depending on how fast he drove. And again, the part I can't stress enough is he goes back to that exact same spot where he stopped the next night.
Because he dumped his stuff right
He
there.
did?
And back
he
where
goes
he
back.
Holy
And then goes through the Snake River.
And then as soon as there, he goes down to the Snake River, and he doesn't spend any time. He goes to Snake River, and then immediately he's back up 195.
So you think he left the stuff there and went back and got it the next day, and then dumped it in the river?
Yeah, and I'll give you guys my theory. I'd be really interested in your feedback here. But looking at everything that I've seen,
going through dirt roads, rivers.
I believe Maddie is who he interacted with earlier. There's some other things that kind of support that. I hope a lot of this comes out at some point. I think.
Sorry to know, but why do you say some things to support that? Is that the cell phones?
Yeah, there's a lot more collisions between Bryan's phone and Maddie's phone than any of the other victims. And what I'm saying about collision is they start to occupy the same space at the same time. And there is a little bit more of a pattern to that than with the other victims.
And what do you mean? I know you don't have all the data in front of you, but like in different locations, or like what?
I want to say August 28th, but I could be wrong if that's a Sunday. The first Sunday after the full week of school starting in August, it's Maddie's phone that I think interjects with his phone in Pullman, and this is the apartment complex right next to Bryan's. And they start off at like the student center at WSU, and then they move up to an apartment complex. And I think there was an interaction there that could have been the first crossing of paths. There's multiple times around the house that A&W over time, but consistently it's more with Maddie than the other roommate at that point.
He dips into his fantasy fund, and Kaylee's up here. And it was like that. That's the moment he's going to plan this murder, and she's still down there, and Kaylee's up here hanging out with us. So I totally agree, but I can't say that in a forum.
And you guys know better than I would. I think the fact that Kaylee is in the same bed as Maddie that night is somewhat of a fluke. Like, right, that wasn't something he could have predicted. So what I believe starts as a targeted one victim thing very quickly rolls into two. I think Xana interrupted that, and I think there's
that's the scream.
Well, the scream, but also there's really good. So before, in my prior life, before I started doing a lot of the phone stuff, I did a lot of homicide stuff. I was a blood spatter expert. There is excellent blood spatter in this house that, in my opinion, Xana not only interrupts it, but he chases Xana through a big portion of the house. And that's where Xana comes into, and then Ethan comes into. And to your guys' point of the physical side of this, he's just exhausted by the time he sees Dylan. And that's why Dylan today,
What?
and this is really
a great
important.
storyteller.
Oh.
He's just very troubling. I mean, he's implicating, Maddie meeting. I mean, he's suggesting certain kind of relationship, at least meeting them two more so than the others, he's saying. So I don't know if this is meant for prison justice, not sure, and who Maddie really is, don't know. But he's also avoiding the issues of there are other perpetrators. There's male blood B and D that's nearest on the blood spatter of the wall to the other victims. BK's DNA is not even there. There's no blood DNA at all. It's just skin cells on a sheath that was dropped on the floor. Something totally different. And why he doesn't go into none of this is being discussed. And what you pointed out, Steve G originally believed there were other perpetrators, and rightfully so. I mean, we all see the evidence, but is it justice to single out on one individual who has the least footprint? And I'm not being in the case. In other words, 10 skin cells versus others who have blood samples splattered throughout that stairwell and other locations. We know that, and that there was a cleaning agent and a diluting agent involved. Raises a lot of questions, right? So this is just, I don't know where I didn't realize how much information was in this video. I gotta
wow, yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot from them going into the different case, but I think they're all agreeing that somehow this is going to get vacated, and I'm just reading in between the line that they want prison justice. I mean, I've seen it in other interviews with Steve G, especially in that Drunk Turkey show. He certainly wanted to. What did he say? He said he wanted to riddle him full of bullets or something like that. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, let's put him full of bullets. That is exactly what he said.
He sounds like a villain on Batman. Unbelievable.
Investigators to wrap their head around the route back was going to be the same route that he took there. I believe he was going to go right back out on Indian Hills, up north to that little crossover road, and then come back north of the airport back in, because he can get all the way to his house and never pass a video camera other than the Indian Hills one. But because 911 is being called, he drops down to the south. So yeah, I think it went from 1 to 2 to 4 very, very quickly. Then there's the interruption, which completely throws him off his plan. He doesn't know what to do, but he's smart enough with everything he has on the criminology side, which, by the way, I completely agree with you, Olivia. He is a terrible criminal. His PhD program.
Box of rocks.
Yeah, but he is smart enough to know it may be looking for.
You could see one mistake, but that many? Calling him a terrible criminal is
Yeah,
it's really weird.
he's a someone. Unbelievable. I you know what, we got it, parsing through what he means in all different areas is unbelievable. they have an agenda, and it seems scripted in some degree.
Yeah, Tony said that produced and written by Olivia's husband.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, they're certainly telling a great story. And this is content packed on many levels. Makes sense.
It is weird. I mean, I can understand somebody making a dumb mistake, but so many dumb mistakes. Leaving the sheath, streaking through the crime scene, removing your mask so they can see your bushy eyebrows.
Yeah.
Everything.
Leaving witnesses.
Leaving a witness.
Yeah. Just brushing, eye to eye, nose to nose, and in a glance, walking so softly. I mean, it's a great story, and I guess Olivia's husband. I mean, are they actually looking into doing something? Is that what the any rumors being floated around?
Now she's involving herself with a lot of things. I don't know. Yeah, I must actually check that up. Let's see here at the end.
I missed it. JJ in the chat.
Describing a white car.
Sorry, Begone.
And the path that you were talking about, where he went, I think Indian Hills Road.
Sorry, you were saying something, Begone.
No, I saw. I noticed JJ was in the chat from Operation GCD. I don't know if you know him. Very nice guy.
No. I said hi. I don't know him.
He's great. Great. Knows a lot of the federal stuff. Really good guy. Was in the military.
Are you also covering the case, JJ?
Yeah, he does. Him and I was on one of the lives with him and Kane. So, JJ.
Okay, guys, so just do you head over and subscribe to his channel as well? Oh, thank you. That's interesting.
Everything he did was misdirection. So he didn't want to come in from west to east. He wanted to come from east to west. He was playing the same game. So if he did get caught, he wanted it to appear like he was coming from the opposite direction of where he really came from.
Right. I do have to go.
Okay.
But I just wanted
All right, guys. Man, that was awesome. I really appreciate it, Si. And Bryan, thank you for putting this together. It wasn't a gotcha. It was organic. Talking with people, I really appreciate it.
Thank you for honestly having such a platform where I do genuinely feel like we have said more in this than we've ever really said publicly, and that's honestly 100% due to you and how you choose to be a journalist and the open environment that you foster. And Cyray, I just wanted to say thank you. It is what it is. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate your time more than anything else. Just being able to, talk with us and meet on a playing field together.
My little 5 minutes that I have, I'm literally going to go to bed with nightmares now because of hearing him say that he was in the living room and then hearing him say that he went back to that same spot the next night. I mean,
this is his thought. This is him thinking out loud.
But that just terrifies me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that
there's literally not a single thing scary about him. He's the biggest pansy coward ass that you could ever imagine. They're like, we're scared. We're scared because of
vulnerable.
His mom, and
Monsters
he doesn't have to
prey on vulnerable people.
Yeah. Do you want to master AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Midjourney? We'll show you where to start. Click Tech.
And same thing, Bryan. Thanks for having me on. And I'll throw this out, Steve. I talked about it earlier, and Olivia, it goes to you as well. And if you're okay with it, Steve, I'll just respond back to that. Yeah, I have your email on, I think, the questions that they sent over, that Courtney sent over. I'll respond back to you. I'll give you guys my contact and my phone number 24/7. Anything you guys ever need, or if you need to bounce anything off, let me know. I'm more than happy to sit down anytime, have as many conversations as you want. If there's anything you guys are doing with foundation-wise or trying to promote some of the change you guys are talking about, super interested. Let me know how we can help if we can. I can't emphasize enough. We are really trying to push this as a really intense training for law enforcement on how to never fall for this trap again and how to prevent a lot of these things. We're getting an excellent feedback on that. So rest assured, the overwhelming majority of the law enforcement community that I'm working with sees where you guys are coming from. Their heart goes out to you guys. The victimization that you guys have been re-victimized by the process is one of the goals I've always had of trying to prevent. Like, how can I? And that's one of the things I got involved in this case on. It wasn't to ever be Bryan Kohberger's defense expert. It was to keep my ethics and say, look, criminal investigations can never look like this. And if those of us who see it and understand it don't stand up and say something, who does? So again, any pain or suffering that I have caused or helped happen with this nonsense, please understand, Ann has never spoken for me. Things that Ann says is not what I said. But my apologies for that if it's caused you guys heartburn.
He's selling himself.
To be of assistance, I'm yours. So for what that's worth.
I'm yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Now
so much.
that's
All right.
Yes. Bye, Brian. It was good to see you.
All right, so I really appreciate Cy
Okay,
and
that's
Olivia.
now that was gay corn.
Okay, so
He said, "I'm yours."
Begamish also has to go, but
Told himself.
before we do, let's quickly just play this one of Scully. Sorry, guys, Begamish also has to move. But let's play this one of Scully quickly.
All right.
Begamish, I'll chat with you after we end. Hold on.
Bryan was in that house. What? Are you sure? No way. That's impossible.
Hold on. Sorry, let's do this. Let's do that. Okay, share it. Sorry. Can you guys see it on the screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, let's see. It's like 30 seconds.
Bryan was in that house. What? Are you sure? No way. That's impossible.
Wait, what house?
The one we were investigating. He was there. This changes everything. We need to go back.
What about the ping pong table? Who buys skateboards and weed corn? Rye beef!
I love it.
Oh, Scotty.
Bryan was in that house. What? Are you sure? No way. That's impossible.
Oh, I love it. Oh, wow.
Great caricatures.
Did you see it?
Well made there, Scully.
Oh, Scully, please make more of that. Corn. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Big Amish also has to take a leave.
Yes, I do. But I think Wendy, Scully, I was on Scully probably almost a week ago, maybe less. But he told me he didn't need to apologize. You wanted him on the show as well, so I don't know if he still wants to go on. If that invitation, it's from you anyway. From me.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah. So hopefully you could arrange it, Scully. Contact Wendy and arrange it so we could have a nice group show together.
Bring all your funny videos.
Yes, absolutely. That would be great.
Big Amish, I'll stay with you for a minute.
Yep.
Guys, thank you so much.
Love you all. Thank you.
We'll take a whole video and watch Scully's funny videos on the Muppet series.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, all of you, thank you so much. I think we'll be back next week. Linda, I got your mail as we were talking, so I'll get back to you sometime by Monday, if that's okay. Sorry. And thank you, all of you. Love all of you, and always very entertaining. We appreciate all of you that join us.
Yes. Thank you.
Have a wonderful weekend, and if you find anything, just mail it to me. There's a mail in the description, and then we can cover it. All right, guys, have a good weekend.